Call this planning commission meeting to order. I'm Mayor Zach Hurley, chairperson. Fran, you want to introduce yourself?
Fran Aaron, commission member.
Kelly Rostrand, commission member.
Timber Conser, commission member.
Todd Furkey, city alderman.
Nick Dooms, design engineering for Joe Terry.
Adam Tagan, Finance Economic Development Director.
We're just missing one planning commission member today, and that's Mr. Shane Burkhart, who couldn't be here. With that said, we'll move into item number one, which is actually maybe a housekeeping item. Anybody that's not signed in, please do so before you leave today, just so we can get you on the record at some point. So there's a sign-up sheet at the end of the table. We'll have that here for you shortly if you didn't have it. Item number one on our agenda is the approval of the reports from the March 7th and April 18th Planning Commission meetings. Commissioners, what are your wishes regarding the reports?
So move.
I have a motion by Rosecrans
Second.
to approve, second by Aaron. We'll give you that. Any discussion on the reports? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. We'll move into item number two. Under maps and plats received, item 2 is Happy Hippo CSM. The applicant is requesting a CSM, certified survey map approval for the creation of 2 parcels and the dedication of property as public road right-of-way. Subject property is located at 841 Goodnow Avenue, which is parcel 34-12191. Adam, did you have any comments on that one?
It's pretty straightforward. The Happy Hippo LLC is proposing to buy the eastern, a little less than half of an existing lot, so they need to go through CSM approval. Our official map does show it as a 66-foot right-of-way. It's currently at 60, so that's why a 3-foot dedication is required, and that's why it needs to come before you. But otherwise, it meets all zoning requirements, and there were no adverse comments received.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners for Adam on that one? Hearing and seeing none. We'll entertain a motion on that, on Happy Hippo CSM.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All right, moving to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Item B this afternoon is Quick Trip CSM. The applicant is requesting a certified survey map approval for the combination of 7 parcels into 1 and the dedication of property as public road right-of-way. The subject properties are generally located at 1041, 1061, 1111, and 1121 Lincoln Street and 1120 6th Street South. Just as a point of clarification for anyone that is here on this particular agenda item tonight, the public hearing is at the latter part of our agenda. So I will be acknowledging and commissioners will acknowledge if there is input or feedback on that. So this is purely the CSM. So Adam, did you want to introduce anything on that?
Just a couple of things. There are multiple zonings existing on it as it sits today. As a result, any approval of the CSM would be contingent on zoning being approved at a later date because you cannot combine multiple parcels with different zonings. So later on your agenda, there are the rezonings. So that would be item number 1. Item number 2 is the reason this one is coming before you is Lincoln Street on our official map is an 80-foot right-of-way. It's currently at 66, so it requires a 7-foot dedication from the applicant on this one. So it would be contingent on it being revised to show the 7-foot dedication and zoning being approved.
All right, so anybody have any questions about that in terms of process? So we're all clear that public hearing is at the latter part, and this is merely for combination of the parcels, which the zoning action will follow. Commissioners, any questions on the CSM? Any discussion on the CSM request? With that, I entertain a motion.
Move.
We have a motion to approve by Aaron. Is there a second? Second by Furkey. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passed unanimously. Item number 3 on our agenda this evening is Plan 160194, Wisconsin Dehydration and Processing LLC. The applicant is requesting a site plan approval to allow the construction of a 72-foot by 288-foot storage building and other accessory uses in the M3 Industrial Park District. The subject property is located at 2721 Industrial Street, parcel number 3400857. With that, I'd welcome the requesters to come back into the room if you wouldn't mind. You can stand here if you'd like to speak to your request. I know, having some conversation over the last, year and a half, you guys have been in business in Rapids. It's been a pleasure working with you, and excited to hear tonight what your plans are. Anything you want to share with us about your project?
Oh, well, just in a nutshell, what we'll be doing is a fabric structure on a concrete slab. It's really all it amounts to. It's not gonna be, anything real invasive. It's at the back of our property. It's pretty well hidden in the parcel in between the Hellron Oil folks, Sparhawk, and our property there. So, the building itself will house a lot of our raw material and be cycled through there in 24 hours. In a nutshell, all it's really going to serve as is a place where we can put the product, allow it to sit for 24 hours, let the water run from it, as we're repurposing a lot of material coming out of McCain's, and that requires them to flush it. So all in all, we're looking at between a 24 and 26% improvement on our throughput of our material just by allowing that 24 hours time. So, not to mention, I know in the past, be it it's a gravel parking lot, trucks in and out, we get a lot of issue of contaminant into the ground. And all it is the decomposition, and we've addressed that, treated the ground with a peroxide solution to kill off bacteria emitting smell. This will be a permanent viable solution to that, so we won't be smelling up industrial.
That's good. That's good. Just for clarification for commissioners, these guys took over the former Ruan facility after they vacated it in short order. There wasn't much time in between when Ruan vacated it and these guys came over. So, any questions for the applicant? Alderperson Burke.
So I've had some calls as far as the processing, the odor that plant gives off. Is that just in the processing, or is it in the actual retaining of the raw materials that you're getting? In the product that you're getting from McCain's, is that basically rotten potatoes, or is it just?
It's just to kind of paint the picture. What happens is we have out of McCain, they'll bring in the raw potato, they wash it, they peel it, and they cut it. We get what's left over. We get the peeling, we get the cuttings, and the materials that come off of that. So at its state, when it comes into the building, it's honestly, half of it's edible.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be the peel, the cut, and less desirable pieces. In the summertime, in the ground contamination that we had run into, it just built up over the winter and whatnot, leached into the ground. I was able to excavate most of that out of there. We hauled it off site. It's all biodegradable. It just foul. The normal smell, the proper smell that you may get from time to time is almost like a baked potato smell or a fry smell. It's not foul and stench. And to be honest with you, a couple of times, I think it was a lot of the landfill and the change, air current shifting and stuff. We don't have a volume of material there that could even emit that kind of, plume. But it's on our radar. In fact, in one of the next phases, I'll be back to visit on is we have a stack scrubber going in, and it's $1,200,000 project, but it'll be a sanitary scrubber, and it's purchased already. It's just quite involved as far as getting it placed, but at that point, that'll take care of the actual emission going up the stack. So, but it's all incremental. We don't intend on becoming a giant conglomeration, filthy and dirtying up the neighborhood. So.
Sure. One more question for Adam. As far as the paving of the parking lot for employee spaces, is that a future type development, or is that contingent upon this?
Well, it's two-phase. They currently have enough parking for their employees that is paved, and that exists in front of the building on Industrial Street, between Industrial and the building. The entire back area is gravel, so what the condition of approval is for is that they basically put together a future plan. So it wouldn't have to be paved prior to this building being in place, but they need to submit a plan showing how they're going to slowly eliminate that gravel parking or vehicle use area over time.
Other questions? Adam, do you want to speak to your staff recommendation of approval? already.
Yeah, obviously, they have been out there for a couple of years. Every time we have received concerns, our building inspector has gone out there and met with Joe or another person with the company, and they've been quick to try and alleviate that to the best of their ability. And as they continue to improve their process, those concerns have gotten less and less over time. So I think this is just another logical step as far as them addressing those issues. As far as it requires site plan review because it's in our industrial district. It is a building that is located in the rear, and it should not be overly visible from any of the streets. So some of the aesthetic concerns that are within our site plan review don't really apply to this. Not to mention some of the other development in that area is similar or of a comparable quality. So overall, staff felt it was an appropriate expansion and did recommend approval. As you noted, there is a condition recommended that they work on removing the gravel areas throughout their site over time. Also that it just basically be developed in accordance with the plans they have submitted and the example pictures that they've submitted, and then compliance with all other applicable codes and ordinances. So we do recommend approval, and I would note that based on the size of the building, it does require state approved plans. So they will have to submit plans to the state for their approval, and then once that is done, they will be able to pull their permit.
Commissioners, other questions, concerns, or thoughts?
That storage area there, that's concrete, and I mean, does that ever get filled up with, I mean, do you just, how do you sweep that out, clean that out? Where do you like, do you have to remove any of that crap? Before you get the next shipment in or something?
Yeah, in between it'll be washout. We'll have all the appropriate equipment out there as far as power washing, floor sanitizing, and taking care of any issues. It's not gonna build up. It's an area that's probably gonna remain wet inside most of the time anyhow. And we've been working with Jim Neitzel in preparation for water disposal and addressing those.
Oh, okay,
as well.
then that's all that I need to, okay.
Okay. One question I do have for the council and the committee is, our state, let me think, are scheduled a review with the state stamp as far as the engineering drawings are concerned. That's on the 24th. At this point right now, we're working with Alton Construction. We're trying to use all local contractors to do this. But what we're asking for is permission to move forward as far as the actual site work, foundational work, get the concrete poured. We won't do any erecting or anything. Obviously, we can't put any structure up. And it's an engineered building. It's not, stick built and whatnot. It's more of a pull it out of the package, look at the drawings and the deal themselves. But what we would like is to be able, as a curing time and whatnot, get this structure and facility into use. If we could actually have permission to go ahead and start pouring concrete. So
Our council meeting is until the 24th, right?
17.
17th, 27th, okay, so the 24th.
So that would be the formal approval, and after that, generally speaking, you can do site prep and begin that type of work. We can issue a footing and foundation permit through the building department. That would be specific just for the concrete work,
all right.
and then the rest would be held up until we get the revised plan.
So the 17th is that.
17th.
And you want to start your footings before?
As soon as we can. I mean, it's just because we want to allow a full 6 weeks of cure time on the concrete before we start, especially with the material itself being the nature of it as it is. So.
The site prep, there's no reason that would have to hold off. But the actual installation or actual beginning of construction, that would need to hold off.
So footings would then follow that same standard, the 21st.
Correct.
21st, okay.
See you on the 18th.
Right, yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, appreciate your continued investment in Wisconsin Rapids. I know you've got some other facilities you guys are expanding in around the country, and so we'd like to see your operations here. So with that, I guess I'd move it into a vote. The motion has been to approve the request based on the staff recommendation and the conditions of approval, which there were 3 identified. All in favor? Aye.
Oh, do we have a motion?
I'll make the
I
motion.
thought we had do we not have a motion by Frank? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, they just introduced it. Kelly? All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ferkey. Now we'll move into a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right.
I'm just gonna sign it real quick.
Appreciate it.
Here.
Moving to item number 4, the public hearing on Plan 160206, Quick Trip Incorporated. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from the M1 enclosed industrial district to the B2 general commercial district on property located at 1120 6th Street South, and rezoning from R2 one-family and two-family residential district to the B2 general commercial district on property located at 1041 Lincoln Street South. So typically the process of the public hearing is we recognize individuals wishing to speak in favor and then opposed of the request. So I'll open it up and ask a number of times, and if individuals wish to speak. I do have some general comments though, and I think the requester will address some of this stuff in their presentation. There has been a lot of, I call front loading of the work to build in concerns that we had, that staff had, and concerns that were maybe raised leading up to this meeting. So the version that you all may have from last week, if there's paper copies of things, is probably out of date and not accurate. So I'll have the requester in just a second move into their presentation to cover any modifications. I counted 3 since the materials were distributed last week. So with that said, I'll open up the public hearing and then I'll ask the requester, so those wishing to speak in favor of the request for the first time, and I would maybe invite the Adam.
Just one suggestion, because I think a lot of people are here partially for the rezoning and some are probably here for the conditional use that actually allows a gas station. So if the commission and the chair are amenable, I would recommend opening the public hearing for the rezoning and the conditional use at the same time, so you can discuss all aspects of the development rather than trying to segregate between them, so that you can just have the one big discussion. And then once that public hearing is closed, if you so choose, you can take action individually on items to keep them separate at that time of the discussion as a whole.
Anybody have any opposition to opening the second public hearing at the same time? Hearing no opposition, we'll also open public hearing plan 160207, Quick Trip Incorporated, which the applicant is requesting a conditional use within the B2 General Commercial District to allow the construction of an automobile service station and the placement of an animated sign. The subject properties are generally located at 1041, 1061, 1111, and 1121 Lincoln Street and 1126th Street South. Okay, want to go ahead and give us an introduction?
Sure, I think it might be better right here. I guess if it's okay, I'll stand here, kind of maybe most folks can see, but my name is Troy Malezova, real estate manager with Quick Trip. Thanks for the time this afternoon. Our proposal would be to redevelop the property at Lincoln and Highway 13 or Expressway. There's a couple existing buildings on site, house to the north. It's about a 3-acre parcel. We would get Lincoln Street here, Parkway Highway 13 here, 6th Street to the east. Kind of the general layout of the site, I'll kind of go from what was in the plans that were submitted and then kind of update. What we did is we put together kind of a visual based on what the staff recommendations for conditions of approval were and tried to incorporate some of those into a visual representation of kind of what the end result might look like based on those conditions on top of the existing plans, taking into account some conditions and recommendations that were made from the city staff. The site itself would have access from Lincoln Street based on a right-in access point closest to the corner. So folks coming off of Highway 13 will utilize the site and access this driveway for the most part. There'll be a full access farther to the north, aligned with the existing access point with the street to make kind of a 4 corners type intersection. And then to the east, there'll be an access point farther to the south, adjacent to the building here, so that it's closest to this commercial property and pushed farther away from the north line. The initial plans had a second access driveway in this location. One of the conditions or recommendations of approval was to remove that so that you wouldn't have headlights going in this direction and push that access point to a single location. We think that makes sense. That seems like a good idea. Most of the folks are going to be coming from this direction, and that'll be a less utilized corridor based on our understanding. The building itself is about a 10,000 square foot building. convenience store is about 7,200 square feet. And there's a 2-bay car wash, where the car wash is inside the building on the eastern end of the property. So the car wash circulation, you have cars stacking. Say it's that busy day in February and everybody wants to wash their car. Cars could queue in this area. They'd make that southbound right-hand turn, enter the car wash, and then the exit end of the car wash would be closest to Highway 13. Again, there'd be 2 lanes. Those facilities would offer you the choice of either what they call the soft touch car wash with the brushes, or the touchless or rinse wash. And then either one of those lanes would have either of those services available. Some of our older facilities have either one or the other, kind of one lane for the brush and one lane for the touchless. Our newest facility would have the option to have a choice. The building itself would be a all brick building with a standing seam metal roof. I brought a sample board of kind of what the materials look like. Predominantly, it's kind of this burgundy colored brick with some tan accent colors in the brick. And then in the gable areas, there's a stucco treatment kind of to bring some life to those higher gable features in the building. And the building itself has a standing seam metal roof. So it's technically a flat roof building. Some of our older stores, maybe even some of those here in town, have where the equipment sits on the ground behind the store. It's actually a flat roof building, so it's kind of a bathtub in here where all the HVAC equipment, all the stuff, compressors, things like that, sit up in the roof, and they're kind of screened by that parapet wall that comes up, so that you've got a good location for those to all be screened from view, and then also put in a more pleasing spot being on the roof where nobody can see them, as opposed to on the ground kind of behind the building. The site itself, with this latest rendition, shows about 45% green space, which means there's about 55% building and paved area on the site. I think that's a pretty high ratio compared to some of the other commercial zoning districts in town. So we've tried to really create a balance between utilizing what we need at the site without kind of overdoing it in terms of paving and balancing out, retaining some of that green space on the site. The stormwater itself would be kind of in this area here, would be treated. The fuel canopy would be in this area. Then we'd have parking along the front entrance of the store would be here. A loading zone along the north side for our grocery truck that delivers the bread, donuts, sandwiches, that type of thing. And then we kept, the majority of the parking closer to the Highway 13 frontage, so we've got 2 rows of parking here in that area as well. And we've added a couple of picnic tables for outdoor seating and a connection to the sidewalk system here as well, so that people, if there's a nice day like today and you want to sit outside and take advantage, there's an opportunity to do that. One thing that we didn't address on here, but it's in the staff report, was would you make a sidewalk connection here as well to kind of make a sidewalk along 6th Street? We'd be willing to do that as well. The facility itself would be a multi-million-dollar investment in Wisconsin Rapids. We think it gives us a good opportunity to bring our services kind of to the central part of the city. We're kind of on different ends of town right now. And with our products, we're actually recognized by the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel as the top workplace in Wisconsin and Southeast Wisconsin. So what that means is people who work for us like to work for us. They tend to be nicer folks that really value customer service, and that on top of our product offerings kind of gives Quick Trip its value proposition and why would you stop at Quick Trip, and that's kind of one of the reasons is the folks who come there. So with that, that's kind of my brief introduction. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question might arise related to lighting. Did you want to cover anything with lighting on the site while you're opening this up?
Sure. I just got a little drink of water. Sure.
Is it a Quick Trip bottle of water?
Yeah. It's Badger Max. We sell it. Supposedly the
Okay, just want to make sure.
we sell it. It's not the Quick Trip brand. But
We'll give you some of Wisconsin's best tasting. We've got Wisconsin Rapids' best tasting water. We did not know. Wisconsin's best.
as far as lighting on the site, to me, that's the biggest difference from a non-engineer perspective. Is all the lights on the building themselves are can lights, like you'd have, well, not quite like this, but in a basement or a kitchen where you've had a direct light, cutoff fixture, they call it, where it shines the light down on the sidewalk where folks are walking. And it kind of accents the building a little bit. There's some lighting up in the gables where the signage is. And then even with the fuel canopy, it's a fully recessed cutoff fixture. So what I describe it, my father-in-law was a car salesman, and I call it the car dealer effect, where you've got kind of the lights that hang down and kind of shine each and every way. These are designed to cast light where it's supposed to be and not sending it off site. So there'll probably be a couple, I think we've got a photometric plan that kind of shows a couple of the parking lot light poles. And those are usually somewhere south of 20 feet. Maybe at a traditional shopping center, Walmart, what you have, it might be as tall as 40 feet. So ours are designed to be shorter and put the light where it's supposed to be. And then with that photometric plan, they design it so that they have a certain, what they call foot candles. That's how they measure the light. And there's supposed to be a certain amount that is at the property line. And we always try to meet or exceed those rules. So that's something that we would have to honor here, is whatever the restrictions are for site lighting, so that we're keeping the light where it's supposed to be and not broadcasting it. What you might see at shopping centers too is what they call wall packs. They're kind of a light that sits on the side of the building and it kind of casts the light, usually in loading dock areas, that type of thing. Again, we don't have those, so we're kind of keeping that light where it's supposed to be on site.
Thank you. I don't know if there was any, it's just the big one that maybe you didn't mention. Okay. With that, I'll move into another request for those wishing to speak in favor of the request. Yes, sir.
I live on 620 Dewey there, and I agree with you, it's gonna be a beautiful building and all that stuff, but what about the traffic on our streets, and the lights, and the trucks and the traffic? I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren ride my bicycles out there. I would not let them ride them on the expressway out there, it's too dangerous. With all the traffic is gonna be coming into our neighborhood, I don't think it's, I mean, I agree with you, it's gonna be a beautiful building and all that stuff, but, what about the traffic and the kids playing in the streets and stuff?
Right.
That's,
No, that's a good question. It's a fair question.
man, I moved up here from Illinois in 2000, I think it was, for a nice, quiet neighborhood, that's what I wanted. And, evidently, with this, it's not gonna be that way.
You're talking back in this area? It's kind of 6th Street back up in that direction?
I guess so, yeah, I'm not sure where this,
This is, do you live abutting the property or further down?
either my neighbor there. I live on 620 Dewey, whatever, I don't know.
You're just
But there's
across
supposed
the
to be a street
way.
through, there's supposed to be a street through there or whatever.
He's down here.
Down from.
Okay, yeah, so they moved the street. They used to have two, now they just moved it here, the ingress and egress. Down next to Steve's Plumbing.
Right, they'll be coming through Dewey though, right, I live on Dewey.
There may be some, yes.
Yeah.
Where is the pond going to be? It was.
I think Cracker Retention Pond is by Lincoln.
Yeah, that's not a controlled intersection here. We have right of way just to go like that, and there's a stop sign here. My fear is that this is gonna become very busy, and with all this traffic going like that and not being controlled, that you're gonna have a lot more accidents.
So, excuse me, but I'm currently in the portion of those speaking in favor of the request. So if there's a general comment you want to make about parking or traffic that's been brought up, other than what you said, otherwise I'll ask again for those wishing to speak in favor of the request. That's how we run our public hearings, and that's how that process rolls.
Sure, I'll just comment on the traffic. I know there was a traffic study that was requested and done for this particular site. I think there's some comments in the staff report looking at more particulars on that. I guess just the general comment, I'm not the traffic engineer, but generally speaking, again, most of the activity is going to be off of the lighted intersection here. To the gentleman's point, there will be folks from the neighborhood coming from that direction. And I'm sure the traffic study looked at that a little bit in terms of what the volumes are and things like that. So we'd be happy to partner with the city if there's, activities in that area in terms of stop signs, crosswalks, that type of thing, to make sure it's safe for folks in the neighborhood too, because
Speed strips.
yeah, folks aren't going to be coming from outer space to this site. We want to be a partner in the neighborhood to make sure that we're a safe place to access, not just for folks coming off this intersection, but to the north and to the east as well.
So the first part of yours was in favor. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of the request? Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna speak in favor of it.
Introduce yourself.
Mike Zerflu, I own a large portion of this, not all of it, but I was talking to Marlene this morning about the dance studio that used to be there. many years ago, my kids took some dance classes, and when you drop them off and pick them up at different times, I can't remember if it was 5 and you pick them up at 6:30 or 7, but it's, the traffic there was pretty intense at those points. Again, I'm not a Quick Trip guy, but I imagine yours is more a couple cars in, a couple cars out. It wouldn't be like the dance. Imagine you must have had 30 kids at one time there, or more, 50 maybe.
More like 50 or 60.
So you got 50 cars coming and going at one time. Again, I have no idea, but I go into Quick Trip and, there's people at the pump and, you get gas and you leave. So I understand the concerns of the neighbors, but I believe this is, I cleaned this up compared to what it was when I took over, but it's still the least desirable looking property on that corner. And this, I think, is gonna make it even a much nicer looking property here. The other thing is, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, most of my property is zoned commercial, correct?
The majority is. There is
So-
one home and the dance studio that is.
So, you could put a commercial building here without the process, is that correct?
Correct. Not a gas station, but
Not a gas
commercial
station,
building.
so
Yes.
you could put, let's say, a restaurant you could put here, correct? I mean,
Yep.
obviously they're not gonna put a McDonald's here, but let's say you put a McDonald's here, I would think you're gonna have a lot more traffic going in and out with a McDonald's than you will with a Quick Trip. So this, I think, is, Quick Trip's gonna be there for probably more than the rest of our lives on this site, because I think it's a good site for it. And dealing with Quick Trip on a different deal years ago, I think they're very good neighbors. You can see any of their properties throughout the state. I mean, need a clean bathroom to go to, you stop at Quick Trip when you're traveling. I mean, they're always, they do a good job with their product. So that's why I would speak in favor of it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Marlene?
And, we purchased that property in 84 or 85. And there were warehouses. It was a lumber yard. Nick Shannon was in there with the Henry Lumber Company, probably before I was born. And we tore down the warehouses and pulled up the cutting tables and redid that entire building inside and out. The walls ended up being 20 inches thick. During the high point of the studio times, usually Monday through Friday, and then Saturday mornings, sometimes Sundays, there probably could be on an average of 50 to 60 students in between the two studios. I'm going to say this, some of the mothers don't drive all the time with the attention on the road. And they would come, drop the kids off, race, go all the way around the building and back out again. It was a dusty mess. We didn't have the money to totally pave, but between Steve's Plumbing and ourselves, we did that. I would see it as a big plus in that it's going to be visually good fit for that area. There is, they've moved the road over to the easement, which Mike Zerfu and Kent and I talked about. At one point, we had done that to accommodate the neighbors so that they had left more room for their garages and their driving in. And I think Quick Trip further is willing to give a little bit more land to allow for that, for the garage.
Is that still the case, Mike, now that the road's not going in, are they still getting the 30 feet to
I think you're
Johnson
giving,
and,
Troy would have to answer.
Yeah, our plan is here, the folks who have the access, I'm gonna call it.
that's us.
Straight east and west there, 30 foot,
Right, our
all the
plan,
way to Thompson's,
our plan would be to make that work for everybody, so we.
to that corner.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna have 30 foot.
An easement, correct, I think?
Yeah, an easement.
A straight east-west zone, instead of the jogs.
I don't have the dimension on me exactly, but you can see here's the property line with that jog.
Yeah, Mike said we were gonna get a dimension, but all we got was this picture.
Well, no, there's some dimensions on some of them, but here's where the fence line would be.
Yeah, but you told me you were gonna get a revised dimensions
This
that I
one
never
just-
got.
Yep, and I think there's one, I think I have it in my,
All I got on the door was this.
no, but I understand.
Our plan would be to work that out, so that everybody.
So to me, that's contrary to what you told me already.
we'll hit the negatives shortly,
It did.
if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I'm just stating the fact here.
I understand, just in terms of process, otherwise this will get messy. I've done
Okay.
enough of these to know that if you don't keep some order and things, it's really
I
difficult for
just thought
everyone
as
to be
long as it
heard.
was up, it was
Yeah,
my
I
turn.
just wanna make sure everyone gets heard, that's my objective tonight, everyone's gotta get heard. So Marlene has got the floor, so I'm gonna let Marlene finish her points, and then I'll call the next person after Marlene finishes.
Can I make a statement on Marlene's fence?
She's finishing her point, I'll let you make your statement when you have your moment to speak.
Okay.
Okay?
Just for an example.
Sure.
The people that, we closed the studio last May, so, and all of the traffic has gone down notably. The school year ran from September through middle of May. There were times in December, there were times in May where the parking went all the way down Dewey because people would come in for rehearsals. That's no longer there. There would be people parked all the way down the frontage road towards Colonial Appraisal. That no longer happens. How parents drove, I had no control over, but there were times that there were a lot of people driving crazy. Just because they're mothers and they're running and they're trying to get their kids there. Quick Trip is rated 30th out of Fortune 500. They're Wisconsin owned. They're very philanthropic. Their whole idea is to be a place where people can, low income, can buy bananas, eggs, milk, bread, and their bread is excellent, and meats on a small budget. And they're in for the convenience factor. They have been voted by their employees to be 30th. They had 117,000 applications last year for people to work for them. Nice Lutheran family from across Wisconsin. I'm hoping that this is something that can be done because I think that piece of property undeveloped is an eyesore.
Okay, thanks Marlene. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the request?
I might have spoke too soon, I'm not in favor.
Okay, yeah, then you did speak too soon, yep, all right, okay, so we'll get that changed on the record.
Marlene there, I mean, I can see why they're being in favor, they got some buildings that they're gonna get paid for.
Sir,
That building there.
we'll come back to you, all right? Next person wishing to speak in favor of the request? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request?
Excuse me, Mayor, could I ask Mike another question or two?
Sure.
Where the pond was on the right-hand side, what's going to go there or what might go there? No, the other big green space.
That's just green space, I believe.
Yeah, we just had it as either grassy space or we could do some kind of prairie grass plantings,
That
whatever.
wouldn't be used for semi-parking or anything like that?
No, the entire site would have curb and gutter. I mean, somebody could in theory drive up there once, but we'd not be very happy with them doing that.
It's not, you're not gonna have diesel bays for
Correct, yeah. A couple of our locations now, we've got what we call side diesel, where there'd be a diesel canopy on the side. We don't anticipate this being a place for those.
So that's just gonna be green space is what you're telling me, okay. The other question is, you mentioned, you're comparing it to McDonald's, but remember, McDonald's is not 24/7. It's not 24 hours a day.
I think some of them are, but yeah, I think.
Okay, most of them are a lot less than that.
For the record, can we get your name and your address? And that's a note to everyone else that speaks, we'll need to get you on record, your name and address. It's public hearing, so we gotta capture that. Sir.
I'm Lee Steinhober, 540 Dewey Street. I'm right smack in back of this.
Thank you. Was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the request? Okay, hearing none. When do we want to address the TIA? So we want to do that after, when the commissioners move into their piece after we close public hearing. That's probably most appropriate.
Could I ask a question?
I've got a question on the floor, sure.
If you want it to be part of the public record, it should be during the public hearing.
Okay.
So once the public hearing is closed, it really should just be discussion amongst the commissioners.
Right.
Although the engineer is a commissioner, so I
That's
guess
what
you
I'm just
can
trying to
do it
figure out.
either way, but
Okay.
if you want it part of the record, I would do it at this time.
Okay, so there have been some questions about traffic, and I guess maybe I'd ask the requester if you prefer to have those questions or the impact stuff addressed, the traffic impact analysis addressed now, or if you want to have it addressed.
Sure, that's fine. I think it'd be helpful for folks to hear that, so.
Before we open it up for the rest of the question, you didn't address it fully, so I think it might be best to address it now. Nick, do you want to
Sure, I guess, kind of new to this as far as, being part of the conversation with this, but, city engineering department put together, maybe half a dozen, maybe a few more comments on the traffic, impact analysis that was done. And we just had a few items for condition of approval, and I don't know if you've seen all those or not.
I think if that's what was in,
Adam's note. Should be an Adam's note, yeah, it should be in the recommendation.
starts with breakout volumes and.
Yes, yep,
ends with-
that would be it. And, you know, I did review them, and I guess, you know, I didn't see anything on there that I thought would be a huge deal for the modifications to be made to the traffic impact analysis. We, you know, I talked to our city engineer, our director of public works about it, and they are, you know, this is something that they would like to see. At the same time, we don't think it's really anything on there that's anything that you would have a problem with. I guess if you'd like to speak about that and kind of what, was there anything on here that you thought would be an issue with what we're requesting and
No,
expecting?
I think based on the comments there, maybe it seemed a little bit more of not writing the alphabet, but more accenting the T's and I's. Is that maybe a way to put it?
I think
like
that's
kind of
pretty,
some of the details?
yes.
So it's not, basically a SPAC did the study from, and they're here in town, if I remember correctly.
Right, right.
So they know the area well and are familiar with our operations. And I think my read on the comments there, I think would be fine with those comments. It seems to be more of just refining the
Specifics
study,
and-
going through the specifics of
Right.
You know, how many come in at this hour of the day, how many stacking here and there, that type of thing. So
I don't-
I think we're comfortable with.
Right, and
those
that's kind of what I figured. Yeah, it's something that I would imagine the engineering department would continue to work with them on it, and I don't think there was anything on here that is earth shattering, anything like that. I don't know if that's something you want us to actually go through each item, or is it something, I don't think there's anything major on this.
Well, I
that-
think we need to address the underlying question of traffic, right, and the traffic
Right.
impact. And I think it was partially addressed by stating that the primary access points are from the west, which would be off of Lincoln Street. But there would be some traffic impact on the east. I mean, I
Right.
guess if there's any highlights from that you want to address that talk about
Right.
impact and maybe provide some clarity, I guess, for folks.
Right.
Or concerns are.
I think one of the bigger items was providing the level of service and the volumes for at least 10 years. I believe the impact analysis showed numbers for up to 2017, but we were interested in seeing 10 years plus, kind of what kind of numbers we're looking at for volume and level of service, how it would affect the intersection. So that was one of the major items that we had. We wanted to look at the hospital expansion and the extra staff that they're anticipating there, and how that, you know, traffic volumes and how that would be affected with this. You know, there's a few minor details on how the modeling is done. One other item was the software that was used. The software that was used was not WISDOT approved. I don't know that that's anything that is something we can't work out. We're not saying, I don't think necessarily that we'd have to switch out all the modeling that was done and re-enter it into a different software, but that's something that we wanted to work through as well. Accident history, we did not have, I don't believe there was anything in here on accident history and kind of the impact to this, being with the quick trip going up. And just one last thing was kind of looking at the intersection and where it's at now. It's not one of our best intersections. That's why we brought up with the accident history. We just wanted the analysis to look a little bit deeper into that intersection, and with the quick trip going up, how's that going to affect an intersection that we kind of feel is maybe already not one of our best performing intersections. So the TIA maybe could go a little bit further into that. So I guess that was, those are the major items. But like I said, I think it's something that we can continue to work with them on, and nothing that we saw that would really hold anything up. We just need a little more data and time to look into that.
Did you have any response or comments?
Yeah, so I guess from my, I'm not a traffic engineer, but just looking at it, they did a, I don't know how many page study.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Just looking at, they did about a 50, 60 page traffic study. So obviously they're not gonna get everything exactly right the first time.
Right.
So it's pretty, I mean, we don't do a whole lot of traffic studies, but my understanding is looking at them, it's not unusual to not get it perfect the first time they go through. So the city, I think, had some comments in terms of engineering department looking at the actual 50, 60 page study and updating some things, providing more information on some things, to kind of explain and kind of make sure that the traffic situation works. Because obviously we want it to work for our customer base as well, because if it doesn't work for folks, they're not going to want to come back. So we're going to make sure that it's A, safe, and B, works for everybody involved in the neighborhood and those going to Quick Trip as well. So we're on the same page in that we want it to work for everybody.
Right. Okay, did you have anything else, Nick, on traffic?
No, I think that's something that we'll just continue to work on. I don't see anything with these comments that, I think it's just working out the details.
Okay, with that, I'm going to move into those speaking in opposition. Doug, did you?
I'm with the Spires Riverview Hospital. I just, the question about the traffic is just the concern on Lincoln and the expressway. Southbound on Lincoln, not having a left turn lane, turning lanes. We get primarily all our deliveries come off Lincoln Street and then come down Dewey Street. And there's not a left turn lane from Lincoln onto the expressway. So it really becomes an issue with cars backing up, or we have a lot of large semis and things like that come that way. So they have to turn left if they're going east on the expressway.
Okay.
If there's a turning lane planned or anything like that.
That's something we're gonna have to look at. I know that we did look at with the Quick Trip going in, that there was gonna probably be improvements that we were looking at the intersection anyways, and that's something we're gonna have to continue to look at.
Because primarily, at some point in time, I think the questioner that has come up in the past about, closing Dewey Street in front of the hospital, and that would kind of make that issue even more important, that primarily all our deliveries come from the east on Dewey Street, so they're coming off the expressway.
Okay.
Well, to that end, as Nick just glossed over, but just specifically related to the turn lane to the north off of the East Expressway, a right turn, and some of those other things based on volume, I think. So what I'm hearing is those obviously will need to be addressed. There's some other issues across the expressway too, but how those all can be addressed with any infrastructure improvements is important. So,
Can I make a suggestion? I've talked to a lot of them truckers that they get in that right lane at 8th and Expressway, and then they wind up turning around in Marlene's lot, and a couple of them tore a fence down and chased them down to 8th Street. And it seems to me that it could be marked a little better so they could get in the proper lane to continue going 13 north towards Marshfield. I know they don't call it that no more, but
right.
I think a lot of them get confused there.
Yeah, in fact, engineering is working on a project on truck route signing that actually could mirror Marshfield's, where we'd actually have a different color for truck routes.
That's a good
so
idea.
It's we have to
We're
pick
still
a color,
in the process of
Probably the yellow with the older type deal or something.
Could be like Marshfield, I guess. So we'll open it up.
I try to help them out because I knew they got messed up at that intersection.
Sure. We'll move into those wishing to speak in opposition. Gentlemen, you got your hand up here. Introduce yourself so Adam can get you for the record.
Yeah, Larry Jorgensen, 641 Dewey Street. I've lived there for approximately 43 years. It's a section of town that I think was built in the 30s. Most of the homes there originally had 2 bedrooms, 2 small bedrooms. And it's been very popular with young people to buy those houses because they're reasonable and they've been kept up. They're nice. I came with the idea of moving on, but I never stayed there. It's a very nice place. And then married couples, usually there's a batch of kids. And I look at Dewey Street, all the 40 years that I've lived there, I don't know that there's been ever any improvements to that road. Now, if you're gonna run 16-wheelers or 18-wheelers or whatever it takes, down that highway, you're gonna have trouble with it. The road. So I think that's something to think about. It is very nice, very quiet, and I had 2 daughters, and we never really were worried about the traffic. Here, hold up your sign. That little, I think you got it backwards.
Upside down.
Yeah. The one that's gonna come out on 6th Street is going to be the
Talking
real.
right here?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's gonna be a real buildup of traffic to go down, go that way, get out on 8th.
Amen. Amen.
And that, I see that as very, very negative. I will be honest though and say, your stores look very nice, and they are nice. Everything's clean, food's good, and those donuts, wow.
Thanks, Larry.
Sure about donuts, but I can make it to these places on the far side to get my goodies. That road that comes out there to 6th, that makes me very, very against this.
Thanks, Larry. Yes, ma'am. Introduce yourself if you could. for the
Cheryl
record.
Furhoff, 510 Dewey Street. And since we may only get one chance, I'm going to give you everything I got while I have it. First of all, I want to say I do appreciate that you took out that second drive because I saw that as being very, very dangerous. I too agree with this gentleman that 6th Street is not designed for all the traffic it's going to hold. And I do know from the 14 years we've lived there that when people want to avoid that big intersection, they will take a shortcut. And I perceive that many more people now will see that as a great way to take a shortcut through to avoid that huge intersection at 8th Street and the expressway. And so my concern is that you will funnel many more people through there than what will actually use that facility because of that. My second part is, you said at this point you don't think about doing diesel. Is that something in the future that you may add? Because that's a big impact.
Yeah, no, no, short answer. I don't think we'd have that.
And just so you know, when I talked, am I allowed to speak?
Let her finish, Mike, if you could.
I was gonna comment on what she was.
Yeah, no cross debate.
Oh, okay, I was gonna try to answer his question.
No, go ahead and answer my question. I'm okay with it if he's okay. Can you answer?
It's not really a debate. Hans was saying that the diesels are on the 3 corners of town, and that's why they weren't planning on putting diesel in here.
I think we got
That's
the
all I
question
wanted, sorry.
answered by no.
All right.
Pretty clear.
I live here. What is planned for right where I'm going to be staying? I have a little boy that sleeps on the back side. I don't want lights, so he can't sleep. I don't like the music you play because it doesn't agree with what I believe in, and I don't want to hear it 24/7, and I don't want to see it the whole time. So I'd like to know, right in this area here, it's a very personal question,
Sure.
what do you see doing there?
Sure, the area.
Does everybody see what she's talking about? No. Is this your house here, ma'am?
That one right there.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan here is, one of the comments on the staff report was to look at, can you do some kind of fencing all along the side here to kind of give it a little bit of a buffer and a little bit of a screen? So our plan with this, based on kind of the recommendation from the staff, I think it's a good idea, is to provide fencing all the way along here, so that it's basically a continuous fence from all the way on the east side, back through here, all the way out to Lincoln.
How
So,
high? I already have an 8-foot fence, so, I mean, how high?
Yeah, our thought was, whatever the codes would be, if it would be 6 feet, it would be 8 feet, that would be our thoughts.
And what kind of a fence would it be?
Usually we, in this case, I would think with that big of a area, you probably want either some type of wood, cedar, wood, vinyl fencing, something along that line.
So you would put it up against my fence? I
Well,
mean, do we get any space between our fence and yours?
yeah, and that's something we could we could look at if you'd rather continue with your fence and not have a second fence here, we could definitely look at if that's a preference.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is if my fence is here, my property line is here, and so then how much space do I have between my property line and your fence?
I'm gonna ask Adam to address that, because that's a city code issue.
But then I know about the music and the lights too.
Good question.
Well, the recommendation, as I worded it, is that where a fence does not exist, Quick Trip is required to put in one between 6 and 8 feet, either wood or vinyl. And then if a property owner has an existing fence and wants it replaced, Quick Trip would replace that fence. That would obviously be on their property and they would be responsible for maintaining it. I did not put in anything stating that if a fence exists, that they would put a second fence there and back directly up against it, because that didn't really make a lot of sense to me, to be quite honest. There is no separation requirement in the code. So any property owners that are next to each other could conceivably put a fence up against each other right up at the property line.
So tell me what you mean by that. If we want a fence, they would take down our fence and put up their fence in its place?
It would be up to, I don't know if Quick Trip would be willing to take down your fence for you, but they would put up a new fence if you were intending on removing your fence.
And would they put on the property line then, or how would that work?
It can be up to the property line, meaning it can't physically be on the property line, but it can be up to the property line.
So basically then there would be a disconnect from the end of my property to their, because right now, my fence goes like that. So if I took down the back and had my fence here and here, their fence, there would be a gap there?
Depends if your fence is currently on the property line, there may be an inch or two. It wouldn't directly connect, but it wouldn't be 2 or 3 feet if they put it up to the property line.
Do you also have a fence going this way, north and south?
Yes.
And I'm not trying to speak by Quick Trip, but with talking to Hans, Quick Trip wants to make the neighbors happy. I mean, they want to create a win-win. So, if I'm speaking out of turn, Troy, let me know, but if to make it look nice for both the neighbors from this way and from here, because some of that fence is pretty bad shape. I don't know who's, and that's okay, but some of it's in pretty rough shape. So they'd put the new fence up, and my understanding is they would be willing, or for sure, allow you to extend your fence to that, whether it would be some type of easement like they're going to grant here. And again, I'm not trying to speak out of, because that land at 3 feet behind or whatever is going to do them any good, whatever. But they want to make it, a win-win for everybody.
So we could connect it then. I mean, my fence is newer. It's painted brown. It's over there.
Sure.
But I'm saying if they're going to be building a fence all along, then you'd rather have it look all the same.
Sure.
But I would want to have my fence up to it. But I want to know, besides the fence, which isn't going to hide your place, you've got foliage there, but I noticed trees farther on. What do you have in the back of my house? Because I want
This is your house again, I'm sorry.
No, where the blue is.
Because I want something really, really high.
Yeah.
I don't want low hanging things.
I think they've got a couple of, these are shown as pine or evergreen trees. These I'd have to pull up the plan to look at, and I'd be happy to talk to you after and show you. But, if you'd rather have taller plantings similar to these pine trees, we can plant those in there as well. We'd be happy to work with you on what the preference would be. Obviously, we'd have to meet whatever the city codes are for species and varieties of that type of thing. But our thought is too, to my point, we want to make it nice, and if it's more economical for us to do it all at one time and do that, we'd be happy to do that. As far as music,
Yeah, but I can play music 24/7, and I don't know.
we do have music on our sites, but here I guess we'd be happy to work on some type of condition that they don't broadcast the music through the overhead speakers. We are in situations, throughout Wisconsin where we are in neighborhood type situations, and that's something, recognizing where we are, that we'd be willing to do.
Now, you said something about lighting fixtures besides the canned ones. Where are those going?
There's a plan, a photometric plan in there. I don't know if you pull them out and look at it. I'd be happy to show you after. I think they have a couple of locations where they have parking lot light poles.
Are they close by the houses?
You can pull it out and look. Let me see if I can find it.
And while we address that, the trees that are along the fence or the rear of those property are mature at 25 feet tall.
How tall are they?
They're
when they're
Swiss
being planted?
stone Algonquin pillar trees.
How long do they take to grow?
When you get them, how tall are they?
And how tall are they when they're planted?
I'm not sure what the.
What was the name of those trees?
A Swiss stone Algonquin pillar. They come in a number 15 container. If anyone knows what a 15 container is.
Not very tall.
And there's 12 of them on that property line. Or 12 of that SS. Actually, no, Adam, those are SP. Yeah, sure. So the lady that's talking about that, the other ones come as 10 foot. So SP, which are the majority of that length. Mike, if you can maybe hold that up and point to the middle, the trees that are.
So then,
Yes, those come at a 10-foot height.
They start at 10 feet?
That's what I said, right?
Oh, good. Can you move them farther?
So he wants more
I want more of them.
They're Scotch pine and.
We don't want bushes behind.
They want.
I don't wanna see
You have
it.
a fence that's 8 foot tall.
So your
6
preference
foot
would be to
tall,
have
I
those
guess. It depends on how much you're.
Yeah, because it'll help.
Oh, so I see what you're saying, you want to come more towards
It'll
here.
help with the light and
Sure,
so forth.
sure.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's other plantings waiting.
But they're
Yeah,
fine.
you've got trees that looks like on your property, right?
There's
Yeah.
varieties mixed in there.
Yeah, you have trees on your property.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
But not enough to cover it. I've got
They'll
one.
block some of the light, like from the the overhang thing.
I guess if it's your preference, we'd be happy to defer to the city code and the requirements for landscape plantings, but we could trade those out and put pine trees farther down the strip there to make sure that there's pine trees behind your house.
I would like that.
Okay.
Adam, do you see any issues from your standpoint of trading out?
No, the code is very general. It requires fencing and or screening. So as long as there is landscaping and a fence there, it can be a 10-foot tree, it can be something, it can be a combination, something that it just effectively blocks. So either option would work.
I think that's something we'd be happy to do if you trade these out and extend that row of pines.
My thought is, I don't want to have the lights in the little kids' bedrooms all night long. And I don't want to hear the music if I, open my windows or whatever all night long. And so things that can be done to help with that are going to be very helpful.
Next person wishing to speak in opposition to the request. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lisa West. I'm at 1040 Lincoln Street. I'm caught on this one. I don't know if my concerns are, I think are a little bit different than those.
Can you speak up a little bit?
I'm sorry. I just want to make state that I'm not opposed to the project. I think this would be beautiful for the neighborhood. My concerns are, as a property owner living on the corner of Lincoln and Dewey, I'm wondering, I guess, first of all, if any other access points have been discussed.
So you live over here?
No, I'm right on the corner, right by your head. I'm
right by your head.
Right by my head.
Right there, right there.
Your head.
Right by your head.
Over here? Or?
Right there. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to understand.
So I'm guessing that, or coming onto Lincoln Street, that is an entrance point only, correct? Turning off of the expressway.
This one
going
here?
north.
This one here?
Yes.
Yes, I think
That's
correct.
entrance
It's
only.
only ingress that way.
Yeah.
The northern driveway, that's exit only, or is that
Both, I think.
Yeah, full access.
full access? Okay, have any other access, has there been any discussion about moving that? My main concern is traffic impact and what the projections are for that, only because I do have the corner lot, and I'm guessing improvements will be coming in the future. So for me, and looking at assessments,
I think, Adam, didn't they originally have it lower down, but you guys wanted it across or not?
Well, and again, I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm the planner, so I'm not
Right,
the technical
I
person
don't know if that was
necessarily, but
moved or not. I'm not sure if it was part of the original. I mean, the further we are from the expressway, the better off we are. As far as the impact of that intersection to the north, that we'd have to look at.
I think
I can't give you an answer right now.
I was in a meeting with Joe Terry, and I think you were there, Adam.
Yeah,
What times
if I
and-
can explain why it's supposed to be there, and
Okay.
just generally speaking from a traffic safety point, it's better if it's lined up. If you start offsetting them, then people are making turning movements and other people aren't seeing them, and it's actually a less safe condition. So that is why we recommended pushing it all the way to the north there. Whether or not we've looked at other ones, this is kind of what we, at least from a staff perspective, thought was the safest and least likely to add additional congestion.
Okay. I guess another comment then would be anyone exiting at any point in the twilight hours would be, their lights would be shining right into my home. And I'm not asking for fencing and I'm not asking.
Oh, you mean if they're turning, sure.
For
Okay.
sure, or even just, kind of turning into that exit and going straight. Obviously that's going to, affect us and our, some of our privacy and our, it's just, and not to discount any of your points, Marlene or Mike, I'm just, you're a dancer, those are specified times of the day when you had a lot of traffic there. This is going to be 24 hours a day. And so I guess that is just one of the concerns that I'm having. Number one, again, is the traffic impact, and have those any projections on? I mean, you were talking earlier, 10 years.
That was a request, and Nick, I'm not sure if you have any response to that in terms of impact. I think it's a balancing act between the queuing that we want to avoid on Lincoln Street for people queuing at that intersection, and then providing enough queue space for that, but also the positive offset that sliding it to the south would then, to what Adam talked about, it wouldn't be advantageous from a hazard standpoint. It would create more hazards, but I think in terms of the headlights and things, that's a valid concern. But in terms of the traffic aspect,
Right, and I agree with what Adam said, with offsetting those two and confusion on turning movements and that sort of thing, the more it's lined up would make more sense. And obviously, the further you are from the expressway, the better off we are with traffic queuing and issues with turning in and out of the gas station, so.
Where will the deliveries go? Or where are those coming off of Lincoln
That space there.
and exiting then at that corner?
How often do deliveries come?
We get the donuts and salads, we get a truck every day, so that everything's fresh. And the fuel.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, we get a delivery truck every day, so, it
Delivery
depends.
truck every day.
Only one?
Well, we get our quick trip truck every day, and then, there's a couple times a week the pop vendor, the beer vendor comes, but those are usually
Those would be more like Steve's plumbing type trucks, wouldn't they?
10 o'clock, 2 in the afternoon, kind of the off hours a little bit, kind of when they come.
But then your fuel trucks as well will be taking the same route in and out.
Well, our field trucks would probably come in this area here, so they'd utilize the inn, and maybe our delivery truck. We might come in this direction as well, but the fuel area would be down here, so he would come in on the south.
Where are they going to come out?
So I've got, were your questions addressed, I guess? to the
Basically, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. So Cindy, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Cindy's got the floor.
My name
Anyone
is
else that might
Cindy
be speaking?
Schlichting. I live at 610 Dewey, right across the street. We're on the corner. And I have several questions. Other way,
Yeah, I
610
know,
Dewey.
I'm trying to.
Right
okay, yep.
there, that's us.
My arms aren't flowing.
Okay, so we just moved to the area because we wanted a quiet residential area in the city. So it was close to my work. Had we known about this, I'm not really sure that we would have bought there. But we do like the area. They're beautiful old homes from the 30s, as they said, nice family area. And so I guess there are a lot of pros to the development. I'm not saying I'm against it. I've seen the Quick Trips, they're wonderful. I like the convenience of it, but I have some concerns. I have some concerns about how it's going to affect our residential area. Do we want a development like that in our residential area? I'm looking at not only the traffic that is gonna have to go somewhere, and I see it coming out there on Sixth.
Yep.
And right out past our house. Later on, I can see that it's gonna be busy enough that they're gonna say they need a second exit that was originally planned. And it's coming out right across from our bedroom window and down Dewey. The other thing that I have a problem with is the car wash. I think that that is going to be noisy all day. And even if it's limited to, say, 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning till 10 at night, those blower fans and those vacuums are going to be so unappealing for all of us that do want to enjoy our outside area during the day. I would like a decibel study to see how that's going to affect the sound in the area. I would also like to know how many fuel trucks are coming in there, and are there going to be showers in the area where people are going to be coming in and doing the showers? Is there a plan for a restaurant in the future? I also see that there's no wall or anything on the side right across the street from us where the green space is.
You're
I'm
talking
also
right
a
here?
little- Yes. I'm also concerned about the crime rate. Has anybody done a study of how the crime rate is affected in the areas after it comes in? Because you will have loiterers, you will have people there 24/7. What's gonna happen there? I think we really need to look at the pros and cons. I like that you're not going to be allowing overnight parking, but that's what you're telling us now. What's gonna happen 6 years down the line? Are we gonna have any guarantees? And also, along the side that's our land and also that's Vicky's there's no sidewalk there. So pretty soon we're gonna need a sidewalk all the way down our lot and Vicky's lot because people are gonna wanna walk there. Who's gonna pay for that? Us as the landowner, because it's an improvement. I don't wanna pay for that. I don't want people walking outside my windows there, to be honest.
They're putting a sidewalk in here. they say.
I mean, on the other
On the
side,
other
that's on
side.
mine.
This side.
Yeah, we're already gonna have them walking across the street, but before long, are they gonna put them on the other side of the street too? And I'm gonna have to pay for those improvements? I mean, are the pros good enough that we want it to affect our residential area in this way? And that's what we need to be concerned with. Not how pretty it's gonna look, because I think it is gonna look pretty. But in the end, we need to look at the pros versus the cons. I realize it's a pro for you guys because you're selling. But is it gonna be a pro for us? And how is it gonna affect our property value and our family lives? And that's the bottom line.
In response to that, one pro is the downgrading of the zoning, that the academy currently is M1. It's enclosed industrial. All the rest of it is B2. A lot more controls over the B2 than what there is over the M1. So you've seen the for sale signs on the building. When you bought the home, you knew that you were across from commercial property. What we could do with the M1 would probably make you a lot more uncomfortable. That's all I'm gonna say.
But you also knew that you were building in a residential area. So, I mean, you can look at that both ways.
Well, that's
We knew
been
that there
commercial
was
forever.
some commercial area there, and we knew that it was just straight trucks coming in, and we knew that it was, a limited time frame that Steve's Plumbing would be operating. So, I mean, we did check those things out, So those were concerns of ours, and we looked at it. We thought we had the bases covered.
Cindy, does the south side of your lot, is that butt up to commercial as well there too? I'm just asking. That butts up to
The
commercial
south
there.
side, it butts up to Vicky Steiner's, and I don't know if that's commercial or what it is.
What are you talking about, south side? Or
just, yeah.
Right across from Steve's.
Where you go talking her
lot butts to commercial there too.
I think you abut Dale's, what's it called?
Dale Street Conservancy.
Dale Street.
Assignment land.
Yeah.
But that's commercial. That's
It's
zone
zone
commercial.
Doesn't the city?
I don't know that.
It is.
Okay.
It's our thing.
Oh, okay.
Troy, do you want to respond to some of the condition, since we keep it close that way, do you want to respond to any of the conditions that were requested or maybe asked of?
Yeah, I guess one thing I would say, maybe defer to Adam in the city, but if something would change
of a substantial nature since the conditional use permit, you'd have to come back to the city and go through this whole same process again, correct?
Correct. A conditional use only allows what is specifically approved.
Okay. So, again, we did have the 2 driveways in here, but hearing kind of some of the concerns, we pulled it off. I think this will function just fine for us with 1 driveway. I guess, who knows 20 years from now what happens in the future, but I don't anticipate us, when we build something, we don't plan on having to change it 2, 4, or 5 years from now. Our plan would be to try and do it right the first time so that we've got it adequately addressed, not for us, but it's never convenient to try and come back and do construction again, stir things up again for the neighborhood and stir things up for our own operations. So I don't anticipate, the real source of traffic that we anticipate would be coming from, obviously, Expressway and Lincoln Street. Folks from the neighborhood are going to use that, I'm sure, to give more convenience access to the store. As far as the car wash, the way we designed it was so that the exits out of the car wash, the blowers are internal to the building itself. So that's a good part. For some of the older car washes, you might have the actual wash done in the building, then they have like a metal bracket outside where they have those blowers on the outside and they kind of look like robots flying around. Ours are all internal to the building, and so those doors do open and close when the car comes out. As far as noise, I'm again defer to Adam, but I presume there's some kind of noise ordinance on the books with the city that would have regulations on sound generation and whatnot.
Our general ordinance, just general sound ordinance, it's not specific to a commercial zoning.
Okay. I guess what we tried to do was design it so that that is closest central to the site and closest to kind of the noisiest. You've got, 4 lanes of traffic with trucks rumbling through here a lot of the day. To that end, I think, again, being cognizant of where we are, we'd be comfortable with some type of, reasonable hours operation that obviously someone washing their car at 2 a.m. is not conducive to being in the neighborhood. So if there's something along that line that we could do to be good neighbors, we'd do that. We tried to figure out exactly kind of where's maybe the best spot to put it. I think we've done a good job of locating this area, again, closest to where the most of the noise is coming from and kind of having it in that area as well. And our newer car washes, have nice equipment in them. That, again, it's not outside; it's in the building. So we try to make it a positive and not a negative.
Don't they usually shut a garage door too once you pull in?
Yeah, there are doors on either end, so those doors do obviously function when the
But they open when the blowers go.
Right, when you're exiting, correct.
Yeah. What about along that wall or that green space then?
Over here.
What's going there?
Yeah, we didn't have anything planned, but if it would make sense, we could look at some type of, again, row of evergreens here, landscaping, if that would be something, with our earlier plan, I guess, getting the staff report Thursday. Our goal with this was try to be proactive and try to see what can we make it look like? And again, maybe we didn't get it perfect the first time, but, if some landscaping in there would be something that would be a benefit to neighborhood, we could do that as well.
And what about the future improvements when the sidewalks have to go in?
Yeah.
Not on that side, but on the other side.
Right. Again,
Well, if you can get
Because
something
there's
going along
traffic.
First Street where we like to walk, because I've been asking for those for about 10 years.
I guess I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that in terms of when demand is for sidewalks across on your property, but I think with a sidewalk here, that's kind of was mentioned in the conditions of approval or staff report. I'm trying to think why this would be more convenient to come to the picture to put one on your side of the street. I hear what you're saying, but I'm anticipating that if I'm a kid or someone from the neighborhood and there's a sidewalk here, they're going to probably utilize that. And I think it's a good idea to put one in on our side of the street. Hopefully that deters the need for one coming on your side of the street. And I guess I'm just on crime. I put Quick Trip's reputation out there with any retail operation as far as safety of our customers and safety of our coworkers. A facility like this would probably have a neighborhood of 15, 20 cameras outside. So if you're looking to loiter and cause trouble, I'm going to suggest you find somewhere else to do it. And again, that's the nature of our customers too. We tend to run a pretty good operation, and the folks frequenting our business tend to be good folks. So if you're looking to cause trouble, Quick Trip's probably not the place to do that. and
Well, I just know that it was mentioned earlier that, you know, you do and I don't mean to categorize it, but, you know, that you gear towards the lower income, I think, was and so, you know, you're gonna have people that do different things.
I guess from my standpoint, I see us as kind of a store, a retailer for all people. I mean, we do have the good prices on our grocery offerings, which a lot of folks, whether they're on the lower end of the income bracket or seniors on a fixed budget, folks do like to come to our stores, you know, with the nice ADA compliant sidewalks, ADA compliant restrooms. We get folks, seniors, utilizing those grocery offerings as well. They don't have to, you know, park their car 400 feet from the big box store and then walk another 400 feet in the store. So we do get, you know, people who like coffee, like our coffee products, hot sandwiches at lunch, that type of thing. So we get a cross section of customers in our store.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is all commercial except these houses, correct? Like where my office is, this piece of vacant land.
House and
the dance company, the northernmost home on the west, that is basically where the entrance is, that is currently zoned residential.
Okay.
And then the Academy de la Dance, or the former, is zoned industrial. The rest of the proposed development is zoned B2 general commercial.
Okay. What I'm getting at by that is someday, whether it's Quick Trip or whoever, somebody's going to develop this into something. You know, on the commercial, nobody's going to buy that and put residential there. I don't.
Next person wishing to speak in opposition to the request. Sure. Yes.
I'm Ben McChesney from 478 Dewey Street. That's
Can you speak up a little bit? I'm sorry.
478 Dewey Street, Ben McChesney. That's right on the back side there, straight up from the corner of the building there. I don't know, I'm against this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a truck driver, you know, I know what gas stations are, you know, you can get anything you want at a Quick Trip anywhere within a mile of where that spot is. So, not to mention the 3 other Quick Trip spots, you know. But as far as like noise issues, I mean, you know, she said it about the music you play. I don't want that either. And the PAs, you're gonna have someone yelling, "Pump 4, you're ready," at all hours of the night. You know, well, isn't that great? I mean, you know, the fence I have is a 6-foot fence. You're saying 6 to 8 feet. My first floor windows look over my fence. I already have it at 6 feet. You know, I know you have those trees there. I don't know how quick they'll fill out and become good for blocking noise. And
you're one of these houses right here?
Yeah. Next to mine.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know how quick those trees are going to mature and become an actual good at blocking noise and light and everything else. Is it going to take 10 years? Who knows? I don't know how you're planning on planting them. I don't know. You guys are just talking about the people who come in there. I mean, it's going to run the gamut of society, and that come into a Quick Trip. It's 24 hours. You're not going to just have the good people there. You're going to have the bad people too. You know, they're going to litter. They're going to, you know, rev their engines, slam their doors. You know, it's not. No one thinks about the neighbors when they're visiting a Quick Trip. You know. Let's see here. I don't know. Obviously, the intersection of 6th and Dewey, it's already kind of a hazardous intersection, even with the dance studio gone. You know, it's kind of tight coming from Dewey around there, and it's not exactly your favorite intersection, and there's going to be a lot of traffic there. I mean, you can say that it's just going to be a back way in, but there's going to be people coming off of 8th in and out of there all the time. Obviously, it's just the lighting issues. I mean, I don't know what you said, a few poles up back there. I'm hoping there's not one right in my backyard, you know?
Me too.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't want to be able to mow the lawn at night because of the light from Quick Trip.
One must, but don't mow it too late.
Yeah.
I don't have a light that shines 24 hours a day, so. And I think the traffic on Dewey in front of my house is going to be more busy too everywhere around here. People are going to inundate the neighborhood and find that it's a great place to go from Quick Trip to Burger King or whatever it is, you know. So I think you're short-sighted if you're just looking at those 2 points for the traffic. I don't know, let's see here. Obviously, I mentioned litter before, like, is there gonna be trash blowing over? Do you have the trash cans right out back by my house? Is there gonna be odors from there? Are there gonna be people taking their smoke break right there? I mean, that's gonna be right, the back of the building is right across the fence from me. Not to mention the car wash bays. He said they're gonna queue you up right behind our building there. They're gonna be sitting there idling and, you know, blaring their music, you know, who knows, you know, what people do. And like I said, I'm a truck driver. I like the quiet neighborhood. I mean, he said there could be something else commercial there. Well, it could be a dentist's office that's 9 to 5 too, you know. It's not a 24-hour thing. I'd be pretty much all right with most 9 to 5 businesses. But it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. The weekends are the busy time for Quick Trip. I know that. And there's going to be a lot, and that's when everybody's home trying to enjoy their backyards and everything. So, I mean, you can say that this is going to be wonderful for the community and everything, but I'm part of this community too, and it's not going to be wonderful for me. So, I guess that's pretty much it. And then our property values are going down. I mean, that's taken out of my pocketbook, $9, so I don't know. That's another point.
Thank you.
I think that's about it.
Any direct response, Troy, anything there? Otherwise,
I don't know, I'm gonna convince him. I'm not sure I'm gonna convince him. I guess I would just say, you know.
If you're gonna put it there, what are you gonna do? But I prefer you didn't, you know.
We do our part to be good neighbors. As far as, you know, folks taking smoke breaks, obviously, we're not gonna have them up in this area. Our trash enclosure is in this area here. If it would be more amenable, we could maybe look at putting it out here, but what we try to do is kind of tuck it into the building, so it's kind of enclosed there. We run a clean operation. One of our things that we're known for is our clean stores as far as.
I know, I don't have anything against your stores. They're generally clean.
Right, I just want to mention kind of one of the things we do to operate and why we're different in that we have twice a year we have what we call quick clean, where we have a 100-point score list from top to bottom, from everything from power washing the sidewalks to armor rolling the garbage cans to sweeping out the trash enclosure. The point being, we do take good care of our properties, and we're not kind of on the other end of the spectrum where trash is going everywhere. We do take care of what we operate.
Yeah, well, you know, I was just saying, people are gonna litter. You know, you're not gonna have a guy out there running after trash just from the second that they let go of their piece of paper or whatever that flies into my backyard and everybody else's, you know. But I'm just saying, it's a public place, 24/7. Those are the things that happen.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the request?
So my name is David Brasser, and I live at 611 Dewey Street. I am opposed to this trip. I might add to Larry's comments before. The trucks and traffic are not going to maneuver those access ways up tonight. They're going to go straight out to 6th Street, down Dewey Street, and over to 8th. That's going to create a nightmare for noise and traffic. It's just not.
I'm sorry, you said trucks?
Yes. Okay. And all trucks. They're going to go straight out to 6th Street and down Dewey, and that's going to be a lot of noise and accidents. And it's not.
What's that? Sir, you finished?
Yes.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm Tina Zabel. I'm at 476 Dewey. And my thoughts are a lot like Ben's. I have nothing against Quick Trip, and I understand how the city would think this is a wonderful idea, and it is going to be good for the city, but it's not going to be good for the people living there too. I love the quiet, nice neighborhood with not a lot of traffic, and my biggest concerns too are the traffic, the noise, and the light, and the 24 hours. I like bringing the grandkids in the backyard and looking at the stars, and we won't be able to see any stars in my backyard, you know, that kind of thing. And so I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Can I comment from a realtor standpoint? Sure. I know what somebody said about property values. And maybe Terry too would like to comment on this too. I don't think compared to what is there, some of the fences are in pretty bad shape along here.
That'd be mine.
And I think when that's done, do I think this is gonna affect your property value in a negative way? No. Do I think it's gonna affect it in a positive way? No. This is a commercial piece of property, and knowing from a resale standpoint, if you're going to sell, Beth was just, I think she left, she's got a property up for sale now. Knowing what's gonna be there when you go to resell, comparing to the unknown, I think is better to have. Now, could that be different if it was a terrible business that's running here? Sure, then that would be a negative, but again, Quick Trip, you know, you mentioned how you run a clean operation. I've never been into a facility where it says if the bathroom isn't up to your standards, flip the switch, and if it still isn't, here's a phone number. You know, Quick Trip has a great operation. Is it perfect? None of us have, you know, there's no perfect, but I think that when this is all said and done, you know, compared to the traffic noise, I had my window open on my office today and I was like, man, that truck is loud going by. I'm talking on the interstate, it was downshift or upshift, I don't remember which one it was, but I think you're gonna buffer some of that noise from the expressway. It's gonna be buffered, one, because of the building, and two, because of the fence and the plantings will help buffer some of that.
Honestly, I'm a driver. I've slept like 5 feet from a highway, and I live right there. I'm far enough away where the street's okay. It's not
Anyone
gonna
else?
bother you for that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear very
Mike,
good.
we're gonna cut off across the conversation. We've got people that haven't spoken yet. So anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Sure.
Pat Nyans, 1001 Lincoln Street. I guess one question is, how are you gonna keep people from going south on Lincoln, turning left into that entrance only there? Nope, the curb going. Is there gonna be a separated median there now? Because people are gonna turn left that way, right?
Right here, you're talking about folks.
Yeah, coming south on Lincoln, will they be able to turn left into that one? Because people will.
Yeah, no, I
They
think.
might even say entrance or, no turn from.
Yeah, I think what we could look at doing, obviously you try to design it so that the curvature makes sense for people that it's a right in.
People don't make sense.
We could work with the city too to say, obviously no left turns here.
Okay.
And if I'm coming to the store, if I'm coming from the north, chances are I'm gonna figure out pretty quick how to get in and out of the site to get in.
The other thing with that intersection on Lincoln Expressway, there's about an accident every week right there. Every week. I don't see that getting any better by putting that entrance right there. And back up on Dewey there, where it goes down towards the, down towards the hospital. That's gonna be a nightmare for the person to back out right there, because there's gonna be people flying across, trying to get across that traffic. She just left, that's her driveway. There's not one service that you can't get within a quarter mile that's already there. I see a lot of competition for existing businesses, cheaper groceries. You got Aldi's. Gas station, gas, you got 3 right within 4 or 5 blocks. You got car washes, 2 of them, right up the road. And they're locally owned. I don't see any, it would be nice to have something pretty there, but I don't see a benefit. I don't see it all weighing that rest of it. The light pollution, the trucks, and they're gonna go up Lincoln all the way to Chestnut. Is that built for that? Is it gonna get built for that? I don't see any benefit for it. So I'm
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Yes, sir.
Yes, about the traffic and stuff. In the summertime, I like to open my windows. Jim Gordon, 620 Dewey.
Thank you, Jim.
In the summertime, I like to leave my windows open. Now, you can hear the cars go by, but there's just a few, you know. Now, when this happens, okay, a fence is fine, but where I live, you're not gonna put a fence out in front of my house. You know, that's not gonna stop traffic or stop noise or anything, you know.
Which one do you live at, sir?
620 Dewey. And,
I'm sorry.
again, it's gonna be noisy and there's gonna be a lot of traffic. And what about these smaller gas stations? I mean, Quick Trip goes in, I mean, they're beautiful gas stations. They're really beautiful. What about these small ones? You don't think they're gonna close up 2 or 3 of these small gas stations in town over this? They will. They won't be able to compete. So, you know, you're gonna gain business, but you're gonna lose.
We have our commissioner.
So, you're gonna lose, you know, these smaller gas stations ain't gonna be able to compete. And I oppose it very much, you know, because it's a nice quiet neighborhood and, I like to keep it that way. I like to ask these gentlemen here, if you lived in a nice quiet neighborhood, would you want a Quick Trip with all the traffic and everything?
Well,
now tell me the truth, would you?
You know, if I lived in I do live in a fairly quiet neighborhood.
Yeah, would you want a Quick Trip on the corner with all the traffic?
I wouldn't want any development, but this, I wouldn't classify this as you have a lot of traffic, I think.
I'm talking about the traffic noise.
And what I'm
Would you
trying to
like
say
that?
is, I don't think this, I wouldn't classify, there's a fair amount of traffic that goes here now. You work for the hospital, sir?
Yes.
And you're saying the semis come, if I heard you right, are coming down, where are we at? Coming down Lincoln and down Dewey this way already, correct? And, you know, if the hospital, it sounds like the hospital is looking to expand, that's, anytime you have progress, you're gonna increase traffic. I understand where you're coming from. Would I want more traffic? No,
No, I
but
don't either.
it's part of progress.
People that live there don't want it either, you know.
And you know, you're close to A Street and the Expressway, I would assume. I'm not exactly sure. I think you said you're over here somewhere. So.
I just think we need to think about the controlled intersections. Controlled intersections if we're going to add a lot of traffic.
You mean having stop signs? I guess that would be up to the city or.
Right, the commissioners will have an opportunity to impose restrictions or conditions following all of your input. So that's what your process, your opportunity here is. So don't squander your opportunity by posing too many questions where they're maybe directed at people, because ultimately the commissioners are going to be making a decision and a recommendation tonight. So we want to make sure if you do have input in the public hearing process, it's constructive or it's questioning the nature of the request. Does that make sense? I'm going to get to everyone first.
I just want to
was
ask you
able to
about what you
speak
just
first.
said.
Okay, go ahead.
You said something about making a decision tonight. I thought you were
Correct.
making a decision on the 17th.
No, the city council is the 17th, and that would be the ultimate decision for the request there.
Because the note that we said.
Yes, this will go to city council on the 17th,
Okay.
right, but the public hearing is tonight, so your input is this evening. There's no
Okay.
public hearing on the 17th.
Right, but in order to get a certified or notarized letter, it was by the 17th. not by
Correct, for a
tonight.
legal objection.
Just wanted to check.
Correct,
make
yep,
sure.
yep,
Okay,
thanks for the
thank you.
questions. Who else? Yes, sir.
So I'm Lee Steinover, 540 Dewey Street, and I'm right in back of this project. A lot of my questions, most of them have been answered, but I just want to reaffirm some of these things. Remember, Quick Trip is 24/7. That means there's always going to be trucks, cars, diesel-powered pickups, and motorcycles behind there at all hours of the day and night. Not as many from 2 to 5 or something like that, but they're going to be there all the time. One thing I missed, will Quick Trip provide overnight parking for delivery trucks, semi-tractor trailers? They will not. Good.
And we'd be happy to put that in.
Quick Trip keeps his yards very clean. I've noticed that, and everybody here has probably been to the Quick Trip places several times the past couple of weeks, just to be nosy, see what's going on. But you gotta remember, in keeping that clean, they're gonna be plowing snow at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, which is a good thing, I suppose, for their customers, but they're gonna be plowing snow, and end loaders are gonna be out there, and trucks to haul this stuff away. This is right in my backyard. A plow going in front of my house makes one sweep and that's it. And they do it, the city does a great job on that. And I had a chance to talk to a Quick Trip store leader about delivery. He says they come anytime they wanna, from any direction they wanna, and you aren't gonna be able to tell them much, and we don't know when they're gonna get there. So they can come down 6th Street at 3 in the morning, deliver their pizzas or whatever, and nobody's got any control. This is right from a Quick Trip store leader. That's the terms they use. And it also means a truck can probably deliver fuel at 4 in the morning, there's several hundreds of gallons, and that thing will be running all the while he's probably pumping the fuel, is that right? They don't turn them off?
No, they do turn them off.
They do, super.
Diesel trucks.
The diesels? Great. That's a plus.
It's cold, they're not gonna some of it, you've got some that are natural gas trucks. You see it, there's not natural gas.
And then service trucks will also be using 6th Street. They'll be coming down that right past a lot of our houses here, Jim's especially, and the folks there in the end. They're gonna be coming right by his house, and they're gonna have to stop to make a turn, to slow down and shift down, and that creates more noise. They're gonna take shortcuts. That they're gonna do in spades. They're gonna come down Lincoln Street, they're gonna whip down Dewey Street, they're gonna take 6th Street, and then they go up to Burger King or the video shop. And most of the time it's the video shop. I can say that with authority because I live there and we watch the cars go by a lot. So they're gonna find that a shortcut. Rather than going Lincoln Street to Chestnut and down, they're gonna whip through these. And sometimes they even stop for the stop signs. Not always, but sometimes. It's a service street. So we want to think of that. And the traffic can come off Chestnut, straight down 6 into the Quick Trip entrance. You can see that. And that's a nice shortcut for them. Dewey Street runs from Riverview Hospital across Lincoln to 8th Street. And this is busy, and I can't envision the traffic that's going to be there once this opens up. Because of the hospitals going to be building more, they're getting bigger and better all the time. And there's going to be a lot of traffic just generated by the hospital, much less what this is going to do. Most of the homes along there are owner operated and their driveways back into the street. Increased traffic isn't going to make that the most conducive thing either. And we're talking about from Lincoln again to 8th. Most are owner occupied, single family residents backing into the street. And you're going to have trucks and cars and things coming down there. Now, one thing that hadn't been mentioned, I think is something we should think about a little bit. There's 2 schools close by the Quick Trip area. Students walk and bike along the sidewalks there now. And we're going to give them 2 more obstacles to go through, 2 entrances. Somebody making a hard right turn going west on the expressway, coming around, making a U, and some students walking across there, you're really going to have to watch out for his life. Right, you pointed out exactly. And that's a busy place. And then they have to go through the intersection, and the walk light isn't enough to get about halfway across. Again, I can say this with authority. That's how I walk to the bank and McDonald's and everything else. So you're putting 4 obstacles in just less than a block almost for the students to come through. And I can just see a whole lot of concern. Anyway, if anybody wants any more discussion on this, on the committees or whatever, if you give me a call, or I'd be more than glad to go over these things with them. So, Quick Trip buildings are nice looking. I like their hot dogs. That'll be a convenience. But I can live without all those things at the expense of increased noise and or traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the request? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the request for the second time? And for the third and final time,
Well,
anyone?
can I just ask a question?
Yes, sure.
And I'm sorry that I was late and you may have answered this before I got here. I do have an argument about our property values and decreasing, because a dentist office that's open 9 to 5 isn't gonna be lit up and have traffic. I do believe it's gonna decrease our property values and make it a lot harder for us to sell. You know, a nice quiet street with a field in the back. So anyway, is anybody responsible for the decrease in value to our properties? Probably, I assume not, but it is, you know,
Right,
is anybody responsible for that?
That'd be correct.
Yeah.
One thing on the lights, I think anybody that's gonna build a building, a commercial type building, it's gonna be lit 24/7, I believe, because of, somebody had mentioned about, crime or whatever. this will be occupied 24/7, so I would think there would be less crime. You mentioned a security system, but I think we have a light in the back of our office. I don't know, I should know. I don't know if you guys have seen it. And if you're building any type of commercial structure there, whether it's a strip mall with parking in the back, I would think it's going to be 24/7 lighting.
So for the third and final time.
Sorry.
That's fine. Thanks. That's why I ask, right? Somebody has more questions. Anyone else have any that has not spoken wish to speak? Did you have a question or something for the commission to consider? Sure.
No, I gotta go here.
Okay, so with that, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move into item number 5, which is action on Plan 160206, Quick Trip Incorporated. This would be the rezoning from M1 to B2 on parcel 34-07914. And that would be the parcel that is along 6th Street, just for reference for commissioners here. So the first item is purely the rezoning on that parcel. Commissioners, I'd open that up for action.
That parcel is where the dance studio is currently, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And if we rezone that to B2, it would actually be somewhat limiting what can be there compared to the M1, correct?
That's correct. There are different.
Downzoning.
Right. Downzoning, yeah, there you go, thanks. Alderperson Furkey, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Plan 16-02-06, rezoning of that property from M1 to B2.
We have a motion by Furkey, is there a second? Second by Aaron. Any further discussion on that action? Hearing none, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We'll move into item number 6, which would be the action on Plan 160206, rezoning from R2 to B2 on parcel 34-07922. And that would be the northwestmost parcel of the property, essentially where the entrance and exit would be in the northwest corner. Commissioners, what are your wishes regarding that item?
I'll make that motion to approve that.
We have a motion by Rosecrans. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Second by Tim. Sorry. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none on that item, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. We've already disposed of item number 7, which is the public hearing. So now we'll move into the important one, item number 8, action on Plan 160207, Quick Trip Incorporated. This is a conditional use to allow an automobile service station and animated sign on parcels 34-07922, 21, 20, 19, 16, and 14. With that, commissioners, I will entertain discussion on a number of the items I think that were discussed maybe tonight. I was making, just for, I guess, a note, I was sort of capturing a lot of the feedback that went around the room about maybe opportunities for conditions that were not included in the staff recommendation. So I can rattle those off, or we can go through if commissioners have any ones that they'd like to start with in terms of discussion or concerns. Anybody have a preference? Adam, I think you were taking note, obviously diligent notes, so you may have more of them than I was able to capture.
I guess, yeah, I probably had about 4 additional conditions that I wouldn't have the exact language for you necessarily tonight, but I can address, I guess, the areas of concern that I heard from the neighbors that I think can be easily addressed through conditions. Whether or not it alleviates the concerns of the neighborhood or not, that's obviously for them to decide. But I guess the first one would be a condition that would require a revision to the landscaping plan. Basically, I guess in my mind, what would make the most sense is along that entire north property line. Basically, if I'm referencing the plan here from approximately here to this point, that this be revised to show the taller pine trees. So it's a continuous wall of pine, basically, so that these would be the 10-foot minimum at installation, and they would grow up to be, I think they grow up to be 40 or 50 feet over their lifespan. So that would be one revision. Another revision would be consideration of basically a landscaping either a berm or bush, shrubs, pine tree combination along this east property line in that newly created green space by the elimination of the second drive off of 6th Street. And again, that's tied to just basically light and traffic and kind of screening that even more effectively than removing the driveway.
Do you want to take that condition a bit and have some discussions? We can maybe parse this so we don't get too off topic or off track. Is everybody okay with that? Anybody have comments to Adam's suggestions?
Go ahead.
I would agree with the, we're on that east side where there's that green space. You know, I would much rather see a berm there than a fence. I think that would make more sense, just my opinion. I think it would be more appeasing for the neighbors to see a berm there compared to a fence. You know, I agree with, you know, extending the trees. And, you know, I think that's something that, you know, with the trees and the shrubbery, we definitely want to be considerate of the neighbors. And it sounds like, you know, Quick Trip is more than willing to work with the neighbors on, you know, on working through that. So
I guess what a berm is.
A berm would be a
more like a hill.
abutment, but I would ask that it would be landscape, right? That's, I think, how, I mean, we'll have the applicant respond to these potential conditions maybe on a one-on-one basis. Is that appropriate? I think that's fair. So it would be a landscape. Now, I don't know what's appropriate for height of that. What do you typically see?
Usually you would put a minimum in there. You don't want it to go too high because quite honestly, then you can't get things to stay on it and grow effectively. And if it's grass, then you mow it and you just take hunks out of it. So what I have traditionally seen is probably in the 3 to 4 foot range for a berm and then landscaping on top and throughout that area. So that would be my recommendation. So I guess table wise, about table height and then landscaping on top. So that way the berm blocks the headlights all year round, obviously, rather if the landscaping happens to be.
There's one by the hospital parking lot, we just walked by last night, I think.
And that one is probably in the 3 to 4 foot range, I would guess.
That's a common one, yeah. Troy, do you have any comments on the berm along 6th Street?
I think it's a good idea, I guess, just not being the engineer and not having a grading plan, maybe we could just work with staff on if it's more appropriate, again, based on the grading, if it's more effective to look at something here or here so that we could have flexibility just to make sure we've got it. The point is to block headlights, the screen, and just to check, make sure where it would be most effective, I guess, is what I would ask.
What would you rather see? Berm or fence?
Well, I think if they do a basic lumen study or something to see where the light, or whatever you call it, the projection of the headlights, and not so much a full study, but just an analysis maybe would be better.
Yeah,
Alderperson Perky?
I think what he's referring to is keeping the shrubs closer to the station rather than up by the sidewalk on 6th Street.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is give us opportunity to look at where maybe the best spot is. If it's more effective here, that might be better. If it's more effective here.
I think that's
I think we hear the concern of having something there. Just, I guess we'd like to look at where it might be the best place to put it.
So maybe the condition is the most appropriate screening of the northeast corner of the property from headlights. The treatment is really to treat the headlights that might be coming through there, as I'm hearing the concern, right? Let's see. Okay. Alder Ferky, did you have anything else beyond that clarification on the landscaping? We'll stay there for a moment.
Yeah, the car wash again. Again, as far as right now, you probably a 24-hour operation with the car wash. I'm not sure what numbers you get after 10 o'clock at night. Wondering if that's something that we want to look at or
That would have been one of my recommended ones to look at. I'm trying to think what our noise ordinance is. I believe our noise ordinance is prior to 6 a.m. and after. I hate that I don't have the entire code memorized. It's 10 or 11. So that would, if you were looking at something in that range, that would probably be consistent with what would be in a residential neighborhood.
So is there an ordinance out there right now for that, Adam?
It's not specific to car wash operation, no. Just general noise in a residential neighborhood. So if you're having a party at 1 a.m. and you call the cops, you're going to get in trouble. If it's in the middle of the day, you'll get a stern warning that maybe you should be a better neighbor.
is anything amenable in the car wash hours of operation?
I think being cognizant to our location, I'm not sure what we have exactly for any restrictions on the other locations in town, but I think 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. seems like a reasonable accommodation that we could get our folks online with.
How about 8 to 10?
So while I appreciate comments from those non-commission planning, Cindy, I'll just keep the discussion on the table, just because we had our public hearing, right? And so we took the feedback, no disrespect, right, by all means. So does that answer the question related to the car wash hours of operation?
It does. And again, I'm not making a recommendation, I'm throwing it out there. Is this something we want to talk about?
Right. Well, I think, these are just questions, and then ultimately the conditions, we strike them or we keep them. I was sticking with landscaping though for a moment.
Okay.
But we can settle that one. We'd be good with questions on the car wash, or maybe even just have a discussion about it now. That's fine. I think it's much more reasonable than thinking about a 24-hour car wash personally. 6 A to 10 P allowed time slot. Anybody, commissioners have any heartburn about that restriction?
Nope.
Okay, so move off of car wash. I'll move back to landscaping just a minute. I do want to point out, and I appreciate the willingness to add far more landscaping than our ordinance requires. Just for the public's knowledge, our requirement is simply for landscaping of anything like this, 1 canopy tree for every 5 stalls. So there'd be 5 trees required on site. So I think there's been a major openness and a willingness to work with the city about incorporation of other things. So with that spirit, I want to ask for a few additional things as well. I do want to think about, though, there was a recommendation to keep the spruce trees along the side. You know, knowing the age of spruce trees, I think that's what we put along the expressway, and they had about a life cycle of the expressway. Now, if you drive by along the hospital, they're all pretty well brushed out, and they've defeated the purpose of what they were planted for years ago. So while I would expect Quick Trip to maintain the life of these products, I think we need to probably think about maybe some diversity in the trees that are planted there. And that was proposed in the original landscaping plan. So I guess my comments would be, let's not completely strike out what Quick Trip has proposed for appropriate screening along there. I think a diversity along the northernmost boundary there, along the property owners off of Dewey Street, let's call it. There is some diversity left in there. I know you've got one row of things, but you know, if there's some additional screening that can go in, you know, I'm thinking about your light plan, and I think there's some. Not to say that there's anything off property based on the fixtures you're proposing. It's just that you may want to have some additional screening between there. I don't know, you don't have a lot of space between the edge of your pavement, but you may want to think about incorporating some diversity in the plan of keeping that along that property line. So that would be the one area that I would encourage just some additional thought and allow your landscapers to think about. I think you addressed the one. I maybe propose thinking about boulevard trees along Lincoln Street. I know line of sight and visibility is important to your property, but so are street trees to the city. And so thinking about ways to incorporate some street trees, for us, they calm traffic, they promote slower speeds, and if they're done right, they don't add any hazard to line of sight for traffic. So thinking about the incorporation of some boulevard trees along Lincoln Street, as well as on 6th Street, so on the opposite boundary. So boulevard between the sidewalk and the curb on both ends of the property. I'm not giving you a number, I'm just asking maybe if they would be amenable to something.
So would that be in the right of way, in the sidewalk?
Correct.
Right. Similar to.
Yep.
Like you see.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Just not ash trees, because those are all ash trees. They're all going to be infested with emerald ash borer here pretty quick. You have any thoughts about any reaction to that?
No, we'd be happy to look at that. I think we'll just have to make sure, I don't know what the utility situation is out in these areas, and obviously those kind of limit exactly where you can place the trees, but we'd be more than willing to look at if there's opportunities in here to add some street trees.
Great, thank you. I think that rounds up my concerns of landscaping. Anybody else have any landscaping? Additional ones, Todd?
Well, when you talk about diversity on the north side there, if you get away from the spruce trees, you're not going to have you want an evergreen, right? Because I mean, you don't want it bare in the winter, so.
That's true, right?
Yeah, you can phrase the condition if they're amenable to it, that you have a minimum height that has to be installed, that it has to be evergreen type, but have a minimum of 2 species, for example. Just so if you do have an emerald ash borer situation that goes through and kills everything, well, ideally then the other species is still there, so you're not starting over.
Good point. Anybody else have any additional comments or any consideration in landscaping? If not, we'll we address the car wash. Adam, did you have anything else on car wash?
No, it would just be hours of operation.
Okay. Next one you had down on your list?
Next one I had, and this is a little more gray, I guess, would be the music or PA type of limitations. I admit I cannot remember what the music is like at a Quick Trip. I guess I must block it out when I'm there. But I know I have seen conditions where no outdoor music is allowed. You can have music or, ads running on the pumps themselves, but there's a limitation to what can be on outside, either at all hours or limited hours, similar to the car wash. It's not something I addressed in my conditions. I admit I just kind of overlooked it. But that's one that, based on the concerns that were expressed, are, in my mind, worth investigating.
Grab Commissioner thoughts on that real quick and I'll come to you. Anybody have any specific thoughts or questions about music? I could see hours day parts being a concern, but if no other questions, go ahead.
I think historically in the past, we've had those speakers up at the canopy where they say ready at pump 5, see inside the payment, that type of thing. We'd be willing to limit the use of that so that there's no music advertising put on that, and just for emergency situations, if someone's out there and they're having an emergency issue, we could communicate that with them from the store. But as far as using those overhead speakers for anything besides emergency paging, maybe a way to phrase it that I think kind of gets at what folks are concerned about. Mm-hmm. And they do have in the pump just a little monitor screen where it does then have a small speaker that's designed to communicate just with that person at the pump, so it's not broadcast across the property.
Commissioners, that address, do you think, the concerns you heard on music?
Yes.
Adam, what's the next one you've got?
I only had one more, so I may have missed something, but the overnight parking seemed to be a concern, that people aren't using it as a truck stop or other areas, so a condition that would say no overnight parking. It can be a little tricky to enforce, obviously, on a 24-hour basis, but if a vehicle is there longer than that, obviously it's easier to identify, just because if you have employees working night hours and things like that, it can be a little tough, but you can certainly put that as a condition of approval as well.
Commissioners, that's a no-brainer. I think we all agree, and I think you've been hearing the applicant as well.
Sorry.
Okay. Might be our time's up, I wasn't sure. And we'll move, I had one on light fixtures, but I think, in looking at it, and just for your commissioner knowledge, I think it was in our packets. Adam, do you have that handy? Maybe just take a quick gander at that again. Yeah. The only concern I heard based on neighborhood input was there's these on-building fixtures. They're referenced as C recessed LED downlights, and I think you clarified sort of the intent, but there isn't a lot of bleed that's going to go over property, and I think everything is all addressed on, here's the curb line, right? And that's going to be gone, so you'll strike those 2 poles. But is there any concern about off property? I didn't see anything that was concerning to me on lighting.
In my conditions, the only one that had any, I wouldn't even call it sizable bleed over, would have been pole number 3, and I think that's one that's potentially adjusted by the new driveway layout. So
driveway is gone, I would presume that.
Right, so a pole may move more over here to keep that lit, which is going to move it farther away from. So without seeing a new plan, I guess what had been proposed would have met our code. My recommendation was to be more restrictive than our current code because it was written in the 80s, so it's not very good. So that was really, again, my only concern, even with my more restrictive recommendation.
And even though that driveway was there, it's likely that that was never serving that area anyway, right? So based on the look and feel of it, probably wouldn't be affected. I guess, were there any concerns about lighting that anyone else had or heard?
condition number 8 in your recommendation is the one that I used. So my recommendation was no more than 0.5 foot candles at the property line. The most restrictive I've seen a typical ordinance is usually in the 0.5 to 1 foot candle at the property line is about as generous as I've seen. I've seen some that have used 0 at the property line, which can be a little tough to enforce just because it's usually in that 0.2 to 0.3 range, at least on this one. So they are meeting that 0.5 as it sits.
Okay, anybody have anything further on the lighting?
I did.
You did?
Yep.
Okay.
Not on security lighting or ambient lighting or whatever you want to call it, but on that south entry off from Lincoln Street, I would like to have a light that says not an exit.
So going this way,
Right.
so it would say not an exit there.
As opposed to just a sign.
Rather than just a sign, because I can see issues with
Somebody
people
leave
that
it.
might be impaired or whatever, you know, and that could be a real tragic area to go out there
So you're
that
saying,
close to the expressway.
sorry, so you're saying an actual LED sign that would say no exit, or just a sign that says no exit that's lit, so
Either.
it's available
I
24/7?
guess I would be open to either, but something rather than, because when it's just a sign, a lot of signs just kind of get lost in other signs. If it's lit, I think that would be quite a benefit.
Do you have monument directional signing in some of your other sites? I could see it being a need in some conditions and maybe
We've had a
some.
couple locations where you have this call it a write-in
Right.
setup. And kind of what we've done is put a sign on either side of that, not an exit sign, kind of as a wayfinding type sign.
Right.
We haven't illuminated it. I'd be curious to look at that, if it would be something, we could look at that for sure. I think in our experience, it's not all that common, but we've done it a couple of times where we put a sign on either side of it so that kind of makes sure that you're not exiting where it's an entry only.
Is it a reflective type of sign?
It is. It's got kind of a gloss or sheen to it, like you'd have with a highway sign or a stop sign, where it's got the reflective materials in it, so that it catches the light.
Okay. That would be
I'm not sure I haven't
Well,
put
in with
that on there.
Yeah, something similar to it.
Driveway directional 15 and 16. One moment.
You got them.
11. Okay, yeah, so this is what they're proposing on their master sign plan, is number 15 and 16. So they would have enter only, not an exit. So one would be on the right side, this would be on the right side, and this would be on the left side is what they're proposing right now.
In addition to pavement markings, I'm assuming?
I don't know what they have on there, but that's something we could add to make sure that you've got a pavement marking of some sort on there.
I guess one alternative could be to do some monument style basing there, so it's a bit more substantial than your sign, but I don't know what your alternatives look like to what's been projected here for that entrance exit. You know, it just draws more attention when it's got a more substantial base to it than something simple and it's glossed over a bit. Okay, so I think we've got that captured though, Adam, right? In there.
Assuming the commission is okay with it, it would be something that it would be illuminated, no exit signs. So these signs may work. They would either have to have ground lighting or some other sort of lighting so they stand out. And then consideration of pavement markings. I don't know if they're proposing pavement markings or not, but I can verify that.
Okay. Adam, did you have, actually, that was from Todd. Did anybody else pick up any conditions for consideration during the public hearing?
I can just see for the record, eventually there's gonna probably be a problem on Lincoln Street where that's gonna have to be addressed, something's gonna be addressed there. I think, I'm in favor of this, by the way, but, I think once this, development goes in here, I truly see everything along Dale Street being improved here eventually too, and at Dale Street, that whole deal is gonna be gone. There's gonna be something else there eventually. But with respect to everybody's concerns here, I've never, as long as I've been on this commission, I've never seen the representative here or Troy be more accommodating to people's wishes. That's my opinion. But, anyway, that's all I really see. I think it's going to be a great improvement, and it just sounds like they're going to take care of us neighbors. So,
two questions that actually reminded me of one. The first of which is there's no curb on the east side of Dale's or 6th Street today. Is that correct, Nick? It doesn't look.
It doesn't look like we've got anything there now.
I would assume a reconstruction would then install curb, but to date, it's not a street that's on our plan for reconstruction.
No, I don't think
in the
it's
near horizon
currently
anyway.
on there.
Okay. Just to the question or concern about sidewalks on that side of the street, which would then possibly go in at that time, I would imagine.
Are you saying on the east side of 6th Street?
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah, generally I'd have to double check with the ordinance, but I believe it's more, I think we stick with collectors and school routes and that sort of thing. I don't think that necessarily there's any ordinance that says that we have to have it there.
Sure.
I'd have to double check.
So during that reconstruction process, then that's when that would be discussed and
Right.
and considered. Just
Yep.
for clarity on that question about sidewalks, I think. All right. The other question I had was sign. It wasn't clear to me that this was a monument style sign like is seen at a lot of your other locations. It's a ground, more of a ground sign. I know the plan showed something very, very different than that, like a, I don't know, 25-foot tall sign. The question is, or at least the request would be to, instead of a 25-foot tall sign, but to install something that would be a monument-based sign. Adam, I know you had talked about that. It wasn't clear in your conditions if that was exactly how it was proposed.
Yeah, condition 12 is what I was proposing, and if you want, I can read that for the audience. The freestanding sign shall be redesigned to feature a monument-style base with materials to match the building. So that would basically remove the two single pole look and put some sort of masonry base on that. I didn't say anything about the height because, I mean, it meets the requirements of our ordinance, so the height technically is allowable. A lot of times by putting a monument-style base in, they'll actually lower it because the higher the base, the more costly, quite honestly. So I don't know if you guys have had an internal discussion on that condition yet.
We did talk about looking at the base and making it a bit more of a monument style. We'd like to keep, obviously following whatever the code height limits are. But we could look at that base element to see if we can make that look, I guess, to Adam's vision of making it more monument style appearance. We'd like to keep the height.
I know you do. I don't question that. I know you've done it in other locations, and I know our ordinance or sign code today may allow something different, but in terms of sort of the whole development, it would be much nicer from my standpoint. I'm not sure how other commissioners feel about those. Marshfield, I think on the Central Avenue site is a prime example of one that it's got a much more substantial sign and much higher quality. I think it accomplishes all the other elements Quick needs, and that is the reader board and some of the electronic messaging and things, but I guess I just throw that out there. I wanted clarification on that, but I also wanted commission consideration to what we may ask for as a condition. Does anybody have any comments on that? Or any thoughts one way or the other? It's a corridor that doesn't lack, or that lacks, a lot of flashy signage, and I know the city council is very concerned about introducing a lot more signs and across these business districts. I think Aspirus is the nearest sign, I believe, that runs, let's say, perpendicular with the street, with the vision. I know that's more of a monument style, higher quality. I don't know, Doug, if you've got exactly how you call that sign, but it's much more substantial, much higher quality. Mike doesn't have one yet on Colonial Appraisal, but I'm sure he'll have some sign somewhere along
Someday.
someday. But we like to see something higher quality. I guess. Does anybody have any thoughts one way or the other?
I would agree with the monument style, and I as well would probably prefer not to see a 25-foot sign on the corner there. you know, I don't know if they have some options or that they may present to you or, you know, different alternatives, but you know, I think that would be a fair compromise to not go 25 feet there.
Anybody else have any additional comments, thoughts of the sort? Okay, Adam, do you have any thoughts on how we want to proceed with the condition on that, with that feedback?
No. Well, I'm just kind of, you've got eight feet of open space right now between the bottom of your animated, of the animated sign request and the ground. And again, I'm just kind of talking out loud, but if you reduce that in half, so that half of that would be base and the other half would be eliminated, that would get you 4.5 feet. So it gets you close to 20 feet. So if you went with a 21-foot maximum height with a monument style base, I guess that would be a halfway point. And again, I don't know how Quick Trip feels about that. And normally I would say that that's outside of the purview of the commission, but because they are requesting the animated sign, it's a specific request for this. So in my mind, it makes sense that the commission can dictate style and height and those type of things in consideration of the animated.
Thank you for clarification on that. And I think if diesel isn't a priority product, I don't know what the requirement is for pricing, so that maybe having a 21-foot maximum or something near that is a bit reasonable, a bit more reasonable maybe.
I can get our guys to work on something.
Any other thoughts, considerations that anyone had from the public hearing or anything else that they thought of?
Yeah, I took just a couple of notes, and I know everybody wants to get out of here as well as I do. Just a couple of things, and most of these people are gone now, but you know, there was concern about competition with other gas stations, and I understand that, but I wish I could control who my competition was in business too. I mean, that's life, you know. I mean, unfortunately that's life. You know, the only other thing I would ask about or question, because I don't even know if there's a stop sign there, but when you come off of Dewey and you're going west on Dewey and you hit 6th Street, is there a stop sign on that corner?
No, only going to the north.
Okay.
I can tell you where it is, because I've run it every time.
Yeah.
This is the only one.
Okay.
So northbound, there's a stop sign.
So when they're leaving Quick Trip is the only,
Right.
out the back way would be the only stop sign.
Okay. And I don't know anything about traffic control or study, but I guess my only question would be is that intersection, you know, what would we consider doing there? And that's engineering.
That's something we could definitely look at. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize there wasn't a stop sign there on Dewey there.
And I'm not making a recommendation for anything, I would just ask that we look at it.
Right.
It's kind of weird because I can tell you, because I used to live right over here, people coming out of here don't have a stop sign either. And I've had to stop, as a matter of fact, as recently as yesterday, because somebody came right straight out and never stopped. Out of this, I don't know what it is.
Whatever it is.
So I think that's a dead end road, isn't it?
Oh, dead end alley. Street.
Yeah.
Bird
Yeah.
Street.
Bob's right here, Bob's Sweet's right here. And I was coming and taking the left and the lady did never stop. She never left.
But that would be my only.
That's a,
And there
that
might be
is a
some
weird
question.
intersection, the way you have to come around and nobody knows who has a right of way because you're actually,
Yes.
it's a
Confusion
devil.
there.
It really is.
Right, we can definitely look at it to make it
And we
less
dealt with it
confusing.
since early 80s.
And I guess the last thing I would talk about is that, you know, there was mention of increased traffic and, I mean, I'm for this, but it seemed like it was okay if we had increased traffic because the hospital expanded, but people weren't sure if they wanted increased traffic because of something else. So, you know, I think it's a sign of progress. I think it's, you know, I think it'll be good. So that would just be my only comments.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody else have any additional comments? We don't have a motion on the floor. I think wanted to make sure we got through all the discussion items related to the conditions. Anybody else have any additional comments?
My concern is only the protection of the existing property owners
that they be protected best they could. But I want to make mention that that's a beautiful piece of property. And as mentioned before, something's going to go in there, and it could be something smaller or less. But for a property that size, chances are it's going to be something sizable, and it could be a lot worse. This property is beautiful. There's no question about it. I feel for the people that live right next to it, I guess. I would, but I'd just like to see them protected the best way we could possibly do.
Thank you, Fran. Anybody else have any additional comments? I know this, just maybe some parting comments from me, and then we'll take a motion. I think we always wondered what this site would develop to be, and now we haven't taken action yet, but I certainly appreciate all of the feedback, because development obviously has consequences, it has impact, and I think the beautiful thing about this process with the public hearing is we get to listen and we get to take that impact, that input, and we're in a unique position because of the type of use that's requested here, that we have the opportunity to impose conditions. That isn't something you get on every development. So if it were strictly a B2 use, like many of those on 8th Street, you don't get that luxury. So I think, someone mentioned that as a neighboring property, and there certainly is now an opportunity for peace of mind, knowing what this will be could be developed as, and we certainly took as much of an opportunity to impose improvements to the development to make it workable for everybody. And I realize that means something different to everybody, and I don't live next door to it. I live 3 blocks from it. I will likely be a patron of it, but just because it's in my neighborhood doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to frequent it more or less than I would otherwise. And I think it's the same as other people said too. So, but I do think, I appreciate Quick Trip's willingness to listen. And, there has been mentioned that they're a great Wisconsin company, and I'd like to see, dollars staying to the extent of possible local. And I think this business and in this industry, this is maybe one of the better ways for that to happen. So again, thanks to all those that came tonight, many of whom, as Tim said, are not in the room anymore, and here to make any additional comments.
Did we get a fistful of his business card so we know how to get in touch with you? Okay. Sure. Thank you.
If I may make just, if anybody has more questions, I can't speak, but Quick Trip's been great to work with. And if you have other questions, give me a call, and what I may try to do is arrange another meeting where if Quick Trip can't come, at least somebody could appear by phone, so we could try to make, assuming this is gonna move forward, where we can make a win-win instead of, nobody wants anything in their backyard, I get it. One of you guys, I wouldn't want that going across from where I live. We have a golf course, I love that being there. My point is, it is commercial, and I think Quick Trip has really demonstrated they want to make this better, and if you have other concerns, I know I'm certainly willing to listen, and I assume you guys are. Sure. And, what we can do to make this a win-win as much as possible is all I'm saying. So, feel free to give me a call too.
Todd?
And where the picnic tables are here, is that actually an access to the sidewalk from the expressway?
I think that's what they're planning. Yeah.
Okay, because otherwise I see a lot of bicycles cutting across the grass there.
Good
So
point.
if there's not an access.
Oh, it's right here.
I think it's shown.
Right in the middle,
Right.
red spot.
Yeah, they show sidewalk on there.
The tree kind of shades it, so you can't
Right,
see
right.
it that well, but that was our intention.
But, okay.
Okay. Commissioners, I entertain a motion on the request, which would be a conditional use to allow an automobile service station and an animated sign. I will make that motion. The motion by Rosecrans, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ferkey. Any further discussion from anybody?
I
Adam?
just want to clarify so it's clear for the record that approval is subject to the recommended conditions by staff, as well as, an additional clarification condition on landscaping, a condition on car wash limitations, a condition on music limitations, or the overhead paging system, additional condition on overnight parking, an additional condition on the no exit signage on the right-in exit, additional condition on sign restrictions, basically reducing the height maximum. And while it's not a condition, asking basically the engineering and public works department to investigate the intersection of 6th Street and Dewey to try and make that a better intersection. So, are my notes correct? Thank you.
All right, with a motion and a second, moving to a vote, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Again, thanks all for being here and for the feedback. This will go to the council at the 17th. There's no public hearing. We want to remind folks that was tonight. But if there are additional questions, Adam is a great resource. Pick up the phone or stop and visit Adam. And we'll see you all soon. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Berkhauser, is there a second? Second by Aaron, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Stand adjourned.